McDaniel can't move on it. Now he does. The shot, passing down. Rebound, score!
Welcome to the Toe and the Crease podcast, where we talk about anything and everything to do with the NHL. Again, I'm SJ. That's the co-host, Willy Dubz.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Hope you're all doing well on this. I think for us, it's a Monday evening. For those who are wondering why my room looks weird, I am not in the basement in Hamilton. I am back in Richmond Hill, so hence the weird-ass background. Probably could have put pixeline to cover it up, but that's okay. Looks funny enough.
Still, that is some Madagascar level wallpaper there. Some
That's my bed. Well, I mean, I don't know what it is. It's supposed to be like the. It's not the What do you call the baby room? I don't know. I guess this is supposed to be the baby room, but then when I popped out as a second kid, it just became my bedroom, kind of, and I'm just like, okay, I guess.
A baby then, still a baby now. No, I'm kidding.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm still technically the baby of the family by default, so not much I can do about that.
Yeah, in my case, no. My sister's definitely the baby of the family. It's like having a kid, except she's not. She's a working adult.
Jeez.
All right. So we are here on this Monday, in the midst of playoff hockey, which is, I mean, to be fair, it's been like every day's been at least 3 playoff games, which is honestly fucking awesome if you're a fan of the NHL. The only complaint I have is they really need to do a bit better job spacing these games. Like, some of these games either A, overlap with each other, or B, like, you just can't watch them at all if you're on certain time zones.
Well, yeah, I have this problem because I'm trying to... Sometimes when I'm trying to watch Leafs and Senators, the Lightning and Panthers will be on at the same... Like, not the same time, but, for example, Panthers-Lightning starts maybe like an hour later than the other one. And I miss like a good chunk of, for example, Panthers and Lightning. And then I get to see maybe the third period. And I think that's the one series I want to see more of, right? But as a homer, I'm going to want to see the team that I'm rooting for first, right? So it sucks for me in that case. And I don't know if you have any issues with on your end with this. Like, I know you mentioned it, that you complain about it, but I don't know which games you're thinking about that you hate. Like that you're
So I think we've done a good job of like covering where you've watched some series that I haven't got as much chance to live, whereas I've watched other ones that you haven't had the chance to. I've just noticed, like, with the Stars game sometimes kicking in around 8:30, 9:30-ish, a lot of times you'll get the cutoff. If those other games haven't ended or they've ran late, you don't actually get to watch the start of your game. And then, don't get me started on some of the other times. Like, Vegas, Minnesota, Game 2 was at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is crazy. Like,
well, I have a story for that. I fell asleep watching that game because I think it was around 1.
Oh, you tried. I tried. I gave it, like, I decided just to, like, do a quick workout, like, just on an exercise bike, and, like, I saw the first 45 minutes-ish, and then I was like, I can't even give this a try, like.
Fair enough. I mean, you also go to the gym every night, too, so.
Also, the thing is, as you get older, you kind of can't just do the wake up on 6 hours of sleep and try to function for most of the day kind of thing, right? Like, you could do that, when you're in college, like, high school, like, you can get by, like, I don't know, you have this natural adrenaline that just, like, pushes you through the day. You don't have that stuff when you get older, man. It just, like, you feel it the next day.
Or if I do get through the next day, I end up, like, dozing off after work around, like, 5 or 6. I think that's what happens to me when I finish work and I just KO.
And I'm not a coffee guy, right? So I know some people mitigate it with, like, caffeine. I don't. So it hits in, like, the worst way imaginable.
Yeah, I'm not a caffeine person either. Maybe I'll settle for tea once in a while, but, like, that's very rare and far in between kind of thing. So I have the same issue. It's like 5 or 6 I'm KOing sometimes, which is not super great for my sleep schedule. I don't know if you have the same problem too. It kind of wrecks your sleep schedule once you fall asleep.
100%. 100%. Yeah, no. Luckily, like, this energy right now, uncaffeinated. So just take that for what it's worth. All right. So we're going to do, like, it's probably going to be a bit of a longer one, I think, because there's a lot of news to catch up on, because I I can't just call it Black Monday. It was like the Black Week where like everybody got fired and some guys got extended. Anyone that could have got fired got fired. And people that were getting their extensions got their extensions. And we're just gonna kind of talk about like what we've seen from the initial couple games. Like usually most series are like 4 or 5 games in around right now, so it's kind of a good time to take stock. And then at the end, we'll just do guess the player.
It's kind of funny. I think most series are about 5 games in. I don't think anyone's officially won their series yet, right? So it's kind of crazy that there's no.
Respect every like lower seeded team has at least won 1 game. So respect to all those teams, because I called a lot of series in 5, and at least no one's getting. Might happen. At least no one's getting At least no one's getting the broom brought out. So that's good.
Well, we already screwed up one of the predictions. I think one of the predictions he said was going to be a sweep, and I think that's out of the realm of possibilities now. So yeah.
But shout out to all lower seed teams, man. You at least like held in for a little bit, All right, so we'll start with the firings before the coaching and front office transactions before we move on to our observations. So I think we'll start with some of the ones I thought was the most obvious. Greg Cronin getting fired or let go by the Ducks. I just thought this was a really obvious one. I don't know about you.
I actually thought it should have happened last summer. I know last year was the year before was his first year on the job, but I actually thought that was enough. That 1 year was enough to just say like, okay, we're done. Because I remember there were rumors coming out where I think management had to tell him to tone down his negativity because apparently it was just starting to get to the players. I don't know if that's a players are weak thing or if that's a, hey, you're doing a really bad job.
What's interesting about that is it's not just the players on the team. So guys like Keith Yandel, Josef Silverberg, Ilya Lyubushkin, I know he talked about this recently, within the year, like they had comments about how toxic Cronin is. And like, here's my thing, right? If it's just 1 or 2 guys, I can understand it. But it's like a wide range of people that have all left the team and are on different teams. Plus, you heard the Spin Chicklets podcast where they were talking about how players hate Greg Cronin too. So, I mean, it's really bad optics. 1, if you're looking to keep your job, and 2, if you're just looking to sign anybody at all, really.
Well, I think he compounded it even further this year, right? So, I watched the Ducks a bit this year. The main things I noticed was the over-reliance on the veteran. Exactly. The over-reliance on the veteran players. So players such as Killorn, like Alex Killorn, like I hate to say it, feels past his prime. Don't understand why you're playing him that much in your top 6. He had his young guys kind of in the wrong spots. For example, you have a guy like Mason McTavish, third overall pick, blue chip prospect. You want to play him more, right? Oh no, let's just put him on the third line because why not? And I hate to say this, but somehow in that third line role, he still found a way to play well. Like I think the last 20 something games out of the 4 Nations break, I think he was basically almost point per game, and he was shooting the puck like crazy. Even guys like Carlson too. Carlson I think was point per game after the 4 Nations tournament too, and that's despite him playing sometimes fourth line, second line, kind of just bounce around all over the lineup kind of minutes. And I'm looking at the team overall. I hate to say this, but when I look at this team, it feels like they got slightly better in some aspects, and then they just got completely worse in other aspects. So I'll highlight this with the high danger chances. So they're 30th in high danger chances for in I think 2 years ago. They improved ever so slightly to a 28th this year. And then the worst part is the high danger chances against. They were actually 17th. So they actually did an okay-ish job for how bad of a team they were the year before. And somehow this year they regressed to the point where they were 29th.
Nice. I just think overall, here's the thing, right? When you draft a lot of young guys, and a lot of young guys on the offensive side, like you think about it, right? Carlson, McTavish, Zegras, Zellweger, Minchikov, Lacombe, right? These are all guys who, when you draft them, there's an offensive plan in mind, and his offensive system just wasn't getting the best out of this team. Yeah, sure. Lacombe, McTavish, Carlson, they look promising the second half. But at the end of the day, their highest score was only averaging 0.71 points per game. Like that's not sustained. That's not that's not. I don't want to say that. I don't want to be mean when I say this. That's nothing in today's NHL, right? And then not only are like these guys, not only is there not a lot of scoring, it's like there's some other guys who, while those guys were good, other guys had drop off. Like Zegras' drop off was like he looked to be about a point per game player, and now what? He's like 15 goals, 25 assists. Like
Yeah,
I don't know
what
what
point 8, point 9, like point 8, point 9, and now he's down to what 0.45, 0.35,
right.
0.3 essentially. Yeah,
And
so
like
not a good look.
and to me it's like he didn't put young players in positions to succeed. Like I think I look at power play deployment. His power play deployment is the best example, right? There's certain points where one, it was never consistent. Like it started with Minchikov, I think, and then went to Zellweger, then went to Lacombe, then they stuck with Lacombe for the most bit, went back to Zellweger for a bit, and then finally finished it with Lacombe. And then there's a certain point where he literally had all the young players on the second line power play. Like it was, I think he had Kaloran, Vetrano, Terry, with the exception of Lacombe. He had those three, Lacombe, and I forget
too. I think Strome on power play one too. Yeah,
and then he put Carlson, McTavish, and all these other guys on power play too. And it's like, hey, at the end of the day, if you're a coach of a rebuilding team, you're going to be looked at by how you interact with your young players, and B, the success of the young players, because that's what's going to formulate your path going forward, right? And I didn't see enough of it that it would justify keeping his job. And at the end of the day, right, look, like, I know you mentioned high danger chances, but they were 30th in goals for in 2023, 2024, 30th in goals for in 2024, 2025. What really made this Ducks jump up in the standings was that Dostal and Gibson played out of their mind this year. That's really what it was. Like, Gibson and Dostal, I think, were like both either in or near the top 15 in goal save above expected, if I remember correctly. And to have both your goalies be that good is crazy, especially for a team that was routinely getting outshot like the Ducks were.
And the worst part about that too is I think Gibson and Dostal, I hate to say this, but eventually they just kind of faded, right? Because at a certain point when you're just allowing that many like amount of chances and the quality of chances you're allowing, at some point their stats are going to fade, right? So I think Dostal finished with a 903 save percentage. Gibson finished with a 912, which is still pretty respectable. But again, goals against average 310 for Dostal. He fell off quite massively from the start of the year. Obviously, you can't sustain that if your team's just letting everything through to you. And then 277 for Gibson, which is, I mean, quite respectable given what he had to go through, but obviously in a significantly smaller sample size compared to Dostal, right? So at a certain point, they can only do so much. And just to touch back on your power play point too, guess who had the worst power play in the league? I think that
was it actually the Ducks?
It is actually the Ducks. They have a 11.76% power play, which is somehow worse than the New York Islanders and the Philadelphia Flyers.
Okay, so that's the team I thought it was. I was like, huh, so it's not the Islanders. Interesting. No, but at the end of the day, here's the thing, right? It's like you have all these young guys aren't like, again, I don't feel like the young guys were progressing enough, and your only real defensive boost was that your goaltenders played insane. It's like it doesn't really justify you keeping your job. So I totally understood it. The only thing for Verbeek is I feel like he needs to nail this next coach hiring because this was his choice. Eakins wasn't his choice. So, like, you know, I don't hold that one against him. But Cronin was his choice. And it just, again, the players hated him. There wasn't that much progression. I feel like he has to nail this next coach hiring. Otherwise, if this next one doesn't work out, I feel like he's cooked.
Just out of curiosity, who would you hire if you were in his position? I have a few names in my list, but it's just some of them might not seem realistic given the rumors I've heard. So I was thinking David Carl, for example, but it seems like he turned down the Blackhawks job.
I don't think if he turned down the Blackhawks, he wouldn't take this one.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. That's why, again, not realistic. But
I was thinking Woodcroft.
Like. Really, take a chance on him. Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's criminal that like Woodcroft, like Dan Bilesma got another coaching job before Jay Woodcroft did. Like, I think that's criminal.
I think the Dan Bilesma one was kind of interesting because I think he was their AHL coach prior to that, and they just brought up the guy in their system. I think a lot of teams have been trying to do that, but it doesn't work so well when, I hate to say this, but I hate that kind of move when it's more of a retread coach rather than someone new. Like I didn't mind it, for example, when the Leafs did it when it was Sheldon Keefe, right? Because Keefe had never coached in the NHL. Throw him to the fire, give him a chance. Like, don't take a chance on one of those old dudes that like what they are, right? For example, like a Lindy Ruff, like that you always hate, just as a reference there. But yeah, I think that's what the Kraken tried to do with Bylsma, which I don't know if you want to if that's a perfect segue into the next topic, or if we want to still talk a little bit more about the Ducks still.
Well, I just think like, again, a guy like Woodcroft, I don't mind a retread if it's not like a proven, but honestly, even a retread, like I wouldn't. Granted, they already fired Boost Boudreaux, so that would be a bad.
Well, yeah, I think that's not going to work. Boudreaux was
I was just like, wait a second,
they fired him already, so that's not going to make sense.
Yeah, no, but I don't know. I think a guy like Woodcroft would be a really good, like in terms of a practical choice as well. I think he'd be a good one. I think he hasn't got a chance since, and I think he'd be a good coach for them. I would have said Todd McClellan before Detroit picked him up, but like, yeah, I'd say Woodcroft.
Okay, that's an interesting one. I mean, I would have liked Carl, but I don't think that's realistic. So,
all right, moving on to we'll mention this one: the Dan Bylsma firing, and then subsequently the Jason Botterill and Ron Francis promotion. So here's the thing with Bylsma: I'll be the first to say I wasn't the biggest fan of the Dan Bylsma hiring, and I know you weren't either. But here's my thing: if you're not cleaning house of everybody else, I don't get firing him after 1 year. Is that fair?
Well, I think the problem is, I mean, this was kind of more up to the discretion of Ron Francis, right? So I hate to say it, he's not going to fire himself, right? Like nobody's ever going to fire themselves. So I get what you're arguing. It's clean the entire house. Like, don't just clean the basement and then leave the upstairs and living room kind of dirty. But I didn't really like the Bylsma hire to begin with, so I'm not surprised he got fired, quite frankly. I think I maybe would have expected more, like just clean like you said, just everybody goes. But apparently Ron Francis just gets promoted, quote unquote, for doing such a bad job, right?
No, but like to me, it's like with Bylsma, it's like you knew what he was when he got there, and I argue that honestly, Seattle looked better offensively under Bylsma than they did under Hackstall, right? Like, and there were certain things that were promising, right? Like in terms of, I think one issue Seattle had back then prior to Bylsma was if they were down 2 goals, it was almost impossible for them to come back. But like this year, you saw them at least have a couple, multi-goal comebacks where the offense actually looked to be capable. It's just at the end of the day, like here's the thing: you hire Bylsma, you knew this team wasn't like. You knew this team talent was what it was, right? It feels like 1 second line and 2 third lines is what the offensive part of the roster is, right? And to me, it's like how did he fall under expectations from what happened last year? Do you get what I mean? And it's like, okay, cool. You chose him. You knew your roster was what it was, and you fired him after a year. Why? Like, what changed?
Well, it's actually kind of weird because I think it's weird because analytically their offense actually theoretically got worse. So their expected goals fell. I think they fell from 20 something or 19th in the league to they're almost. I can double check, but I think it's around the 30 range. I can double check that real quick. I believe they were 30th. Yeah, 30th. So they were 30th in expected goals for. So their 5-on-5 goals for kind of fell. I think their power play actually got worse too, because I think they're now 23rd in the league for it. I can double check that too. But I think, and then the year prior they were around the 19th range. So I think their offense it might have looked better, but I think it actually got worse theoretically. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
But then part of that too is them trading off certain pieces as well. And also again,
the trade-off happened. The trade-off happened around the trade deadline, right? So yes, a certain 17, 18 game sample size can sink you a bit, but I don't think it sunk them that much, right? I don't think those 18
my thing is, I just don't think the problem was Bylsma more so than, again, this team needs to rebuild, and they kind of realized that, right?
It's not just Bylsma is not the only problem, but the problem is, again, like I argued, if you're Ron Francis, you're not going to fire yourself.
Is that's just what it is, I guess, yeah, right?
That is what it is, right? So
to me, this team just isn't that talented. I think Francis, he did a bad job. This team to me feels like a less talented Detroit. That's not a compliment. That's
Isn't that?
and
I
like
hate to say that, but that feels even worse, doesn't it? Because Detroit, I don't want to say feels mid, but like Detroit is basically mid, right? And if you're worse than mid, then what?
it's kind
What
of
are
screwed
you?
up too because there's not enough blue chips assets on this team, and the timeline's messed up because the best players on this team are the vets, but they aren't good enough to contend. Like Jared McCann, again, Brandon Montour, Vince Dunn are some of the best players on this team, but like they're already older. So is Jordan Eberle, Jaden Schwartz. Like it feels like again, like I said, it feels like one second line and three third lines. I like the defensive core, sure, but Montour and Dunn are already 30 and 28, right? So I mean,
Well, the way I see this
mm,
too is they kind of took they in the offseason they kind of tried to take like a big swing, right? They signed Montour, they signed Chandler Stevenson. Now they're stuck in that weird spot where you have those guys locked up long term, and they're not good enough to push the needle for you, but you can't if you try to rebuild it gets weird because you can't fully bottom out, right? Because they're good enough players where you're not going to bottom out to the point where you can land a high draft pick and
you're
find the
not going to
next
be in
guy.
the Chicago San Jose
Yeah,
pool of like just
you can't
sucking.
bottom out, but you're gonna like miss the playoffs. So it's like you're gonna end up with like what, like a 12th, 13th pick, like consistently. And I hate to say it, it's hard to hit on those draft picks around those range.
Yeah, to me, the Biles firing, it's just at the end of the day, it's a microcosm of Ron Francis, right? Like, Ron Francis hired Dave Haxtell, who we all thought, if you ask any Flyers fan about Dave Haxtell, they'll tell you all you need to know. But I thought, honestly, like, for what he had, Haxtell wasn't terrible, surprisingly. But, like, he hired Haxtell, he hired Bilesma. But here's the thing. If the
I think you
coaching's
meant
the
Bosma.
problem,
I think you meant Bosma, right? For what he had, he wasn't terrible. I think you're talking about Bosma, right? Not
well,
Haxtell.
Haxtell too, right?
I don't know. I feel like Haxtell had a little bit. I don't
Haxtell
know.
had Philip Grubauer in net, man. And
I mean,
Martin Jones. Like,
he had Decord for a little bit too, didn't he? Or was that like
but
maybe
like for
later
the
on?
most part, it was like Philip Grubauer, Chris Dreger, and I think at some point they had Martin Jones, and that was an upgrade if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that was actually an upgrade. Yes, I remember
Like
that.
no, I'll give Dave Haxtell a bit of credit, but my point is like he hired Haxtell, fired him. He hired Bausman, fired him. If coaching's the problem, then why would we trust him to get it right the third time? What?
Isn't this like that adage? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me like twice, like shame, like fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, and then fool me a third time. Then I don't know, just fuck me.
He reminds me of that hot dog guy where he's like, "We're all wondering who did this," and it's like it's really obvious, Ron. It's really
I mean, that's fair. I don't know.
like,
I just
and
find
the
it weird.
crazy part is
Is the
only in the
promotion team?
NHL can you fail upwards to the level of Ron. What happens, right? Like Ron Francis, we argue, potentially botched the expansion draft. This team's stuck in this weird muck right now, right? Where they're not a contender,
Would you call it
they're not
purgatory?
bottoming
Basically?
out.
Yeah.
They're just somewhere in the middle. And like, what does he get? He gets promoted to president. Like,
So I am kind of curious if being president gives him the final say on hockey operations or not, because some teams with their president rules are a little bit more interesting. Like they don't have the final. Some don't have the final say. Some of the stuff is more on the GM. I'm kind of curious if that's the case with him.
well, regardless, like he got promoted, and like
I mean, see,
I
that's
don't
the thing.
know
It's either promoted or promoted. So I don't know. Well, time will tell what the actual promotion
like,
is.
and then the crazy part is the guy who got promoted to GM is Jason Botterill, who like
Might even be
of
worse.
all the guys, like okay, this might be the only GM that's become a GM a second time that was so bad that Sabres fans like wrote songs about how bad he was.
I will probably insert a 20-second clip or like a 5-second clip here, right in this spot of and for those who don't remember, the Melody Martin, that Sabres fan that had the Jason Botterill song. She has a couple other ones too that are pretty cool, but I'll probably insert it right here, so we'll give it a 5 seconds.
Hey Jason Bottrell, do you like it in this city?
Like, again, and it's one of those things where of all the guys to bring back, it's a guy who was basically everyone was waiting to show the door in Buffalo. And again, with I think Francis and Botterill, only in the NHL can you fail upwards to this level. Like, again, overall, just not a big fan of Bylsma hiring, but I don't agree firing him after a year. But Francis has got to go. I'm sorry.
Well, Botterill's kind of an interesting case too, because I hate to say it, but he wasn't necessarily canned in Buffalo because of his performance. I think from what I recall, it was he didn't he went against the Pagula's wishes. I think the Pagulas wanted to lay off people because it was when COVID happened, they wanted to lay off people. So I think Botterill refused to do that. I think that was the reason that he got canned. So it's not even they weren't even going to can him for hockey reasons. They canned him for that. I think is what I've been told and what I've seen.
Well,
allegedly,
kind of makes sense given that Kevin Adams still has a job. So it doesn't surprise me.
I mean, it's the Pagulas, man. I don't know. Is there a pair of owners that confuse you more than the Pagulas? Like, you see how well run the Bills are, and then you look how terribly run the Sabres are. I don't know.
I just think different sports are different. I like, to be fair, my hot take is the Pagulas aren't even like. I'd say they're not even top 3 worst owners in the NHL. That's my hot take.
I think their issue is they try to meddle with the hockey operations too much, but then the football ones they don't do anything, which I think works in their favor because they have people that actually know what they're doing on the football side, right? So you don't meddle with that. But the hockey ones, they keep trying to stick their hands in and do everything and then just fuck everything up.
Yeah, but my hot take is they're not even top 3 worst owners. They definitely weren't when the Coyotes were still a team because that guy Morello was number 1 with the silver bullet. But here's my hot take. I'd argue Jeremy Jacobs is worse than most owners. That's my hot take. I know the Bruins have been
just to make sure that I'm getting it right. The Boston guy.
I know the Bruins have been successful, but that dude is the penny pincher to the nth degree.
Well, I'd argue keeping both Neely and Sweeney around is probably the worst thing you can.
Well, that too, but I don't know. I to me there are worse owners than the Pagulas. I will say. I just think a lot of times too. I just think they've hired the wrong people. I mean, don't get me wrong. The streak of hiring the wrong people is impressive, but overall, and now, hold on, and now one of those people that were dubbed a wrong hire is now working in Seattle. So there you go.
I mean, if you're looking at Botterill's best moves, what would you say his best moves was? Is it the O'Reilly trade that somehow worked out? Because I think if you had the optics of that trade a few years back, everyone was saying that was the worst possible trade because obviously O'Reilly went ahead in St. Louis, immediately won a cup, was a key contributor on the team.
So that trade reminds me of in basketball, there was the Pau Gasol trade, right? And at the time that trade was done, it was one of the worst trades of all time. So at the time, it was Pau Gasol for Kwame Brown, some other picks, and a young Marc Gasol, right? And at the time, it was one of the worst trades ever. The only reason it doesn't look as bad now is Marc Gasol became what he did, but at the time, he was kind of just like a throw-in in the trade, right? So it was still viewed as a bad trade. That's how I kind of view the O'Reilly trade. It's still yes, Tage Thompson hitting his 1 percentile outcome doesn't make it as bad, but at the time that trade was done, it was still a horrible trade.
Well, see, I don't know. The thing with that trade was, from what I've read too, I think the Pagulas were trying to force that trade because I think they didn't want to pay O'Reilly his bonus, and they had to get rid of him by a certain point to avoid paying the bonus too, right? So
it wasn't because he DUI drove through a Tim Hortons. That wasn't it.
Well, I mean, that probably has to somewhat do with it, right? But if you don't want to pay a guy a certain amount of money, you trade him before you have to pay him, right? So I think part of that has to do with that too. And the only other
Ryan O'Reilly to Drunky O'Drivey, Drunky,
and maybe his only other good move was probably extending Jack Eichel. I think that's the only other one I can think of that was good.
Okay,
yeah,
the obvious move,
the obvious one, right. Yeah. And then the worst.
Well, good luck, Seattle. You need it. Good luck,
the worst move was probably Skinner, right? The Skinner one.
Did he do Okposo too?
No, Okposo was the person before. I think that was I forgot who it is, but
Regier?
I think it was Regier, but it was Okposo was signed in was signed in 2016. I think Botterill became GM.
You know what's sad?
2017.
There's so many bad moves and bad GMs where they're all blending together into a Voltron of bad GMs.
Again, with the Botterill thing, even with the Skinner signing, again, rumors are that Pagula kind of the Pagulas forced that to happen. Again, don't know how true that is, so we'll see how bad his reign.
I will say, being a Buffalo GM does have some cool aspects because if you blow it, I bet you that's what he did during the Ron Francis interview. The interview with Ron Francis, he's just oh yeah, Pagula told me to do this. Pagula told me to do that. And then any good moves, he can be yeah, that was me. Pagula didn't pay attention when that happened.
I'm not gonna lie. I low-key think that's what happened during the. I low-key think that's actually what happened during the interview.
Look, I root for Jason Barlow to succeed. He was a former Dallas Stars draft pick, if I remember correctly. Like, he played for the Stars. Like, I want him to do well. It just, he didn't do well in Buffalo, and it's crazy to me that somehow that got him a promotion to being a GM in Seattle.
Hey man, like you said, if you're in the NHL, it's one of the few leagues you can fill up.
All right, moving on to the next firing and extension, where the coach got fired, but the GM got an extension, because that makes sense. Peter Laviolette got fired in New York, and Chris Drury, much to the chagrin of most Rangers fans, got an extension. So my thing with Laviolette, it kind of makes sense, because usually has a short shelf life, and it's weird to say for a guy who's like taken teams through deep playoff runs, right? But he does have a short shelf life, and he's mostly known for working with like veteran rosters. And then seeing the regression and stagnation with the younger players, plus seeing the team miss the playoffs, and it kind of seems like they're moving to like a retool. It made sense for a change to happen.
I think there was one quote I saw from him towards the end of the season where I kind of figured it was coming. It was, I don't have a message right now. I don't go into the locker room after the game. I think that's kind of when I knew that it was going to come to an end, because at a certain point, I hate to say this, when you give up doing part of your job, I feel like that's just the writing on the wall. So that was the moment I kind of knew. It was the same thing with Tortorella. Remember what Tortorella's quote? I don't know if you remember his quote. I think once everyone saw that quote, I think a few days after he got canned. But basically, when I saw that quote from Laviolette, I was kind of like, yeah, this is about to end.
Yeah,
now,
like we talked about it. We talked about it too, though, right? It's like different coaches are good at different stages, right? And there's no honestly, like, people act like that's a negative thing. There's no shame in it. Like, I just don't think Laviolette's good for a team going under at this point in his career. I just don't think he's good for teams going under retools or teams going under rebuilds. Same with Tortorella. Like, I just don't think they're those guys, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, like, that's how the jig is up, right?
Yeah. Although I was surprised that Drury got extended, quite frankly, because I think
that is wild. That is wild to me.
I think that's what has he done? That's another situation where I thought it'd be similar to Seattle. I think same with what you thought in Seattle, right? You thought that both coach and coach and GM would get canned, right? In this case, the GM got nice extension, and the coach got canned.
Like, to me, the thing with Drury... Okay, here's the thing. People go, maybe I'm being too critical of the GMs, but, like, when I point to a good GM, I can point to a track record of things they've done, right? So, like, and it's a consistent... It's a big list, usually. Like, look at Bill Zito in Florida, right? What can I point to? The Verhaeghe signing, the Forsling signing, the trading for Sam Bennett. Sorry?
The Tkachuk trade?
The Tkachuk trade, right? And, like, even moves against the grain. Like, if I look at Dallas Stars GM, Jim Nill, right? Drafting Wyatt Johnson, drafting Jason Robertson, drafting Jake Ottinger. These were all later first or second round picks as well. Like, drafting Thomas Harley. Like, I can point to things where there's a body of work where, or if I look at Julian Breezeball, right? Like, the Brandon Hagel trade looks genius in hindsight, right? You look at some of the other moves they made to shore up the depth, like the Nick Paul contract is a really good contract for what he produces, right? Like, I can point to bodies of work with different GMs, like multiple things where I can say, hey, they made the right move. Sometimes it's the moves they didn't make either, like
not resigning Stamkos,
right, and then signing Gensel, exactly, right,
yeah.
Like, there's things I can point to. There's a body of work. I don't get it with Drury if it wasn't super obvious, right? And it's like the Buchnevich trade is an all-time bad trade. You traded a guy for nothing, basically. Like air. It just vanished. And he was bailed out of, like, bad contracts with Jacob Trouba and Barclay Goodrow. And those were bad contracts at the time.
Yeah. I think the Goodrow one, like, he got lucky that San Jose, I don't know why San Jose claimed him. I have no idea to this day, again, why they claimed him. And then the Trouba one, he basically said, yeah, we're gonna like put you on waivers and somebody's gonna claim you. and accept this trade. And I hate to say this, but the one good move he made, like the JT Miller trade, that was kind of forced too. Because let's be honest, we kind of knew JT Miller only had like a few locations he actually wanted to go to, and he didn't
The
have to give
JT
up
Miller
much
trade
'cause-
is it was the New York being New York thing. It was a bailout. Like JT Miller, a situation which no one could have foreseen, where the number 1 and number 2 center on a playoff contending team last year were infighting, and now it led to one of the best all around players in the league wanting to leave. Like that, how often does that happen? Almost never.
Not very- Well, I was gonna say it's very rare that the fighting gets to the point where you actually trade one of the two guys. Usually, you can work it out, right? So
Normally just go to strip club, figure it out. Like, and the other thing too you have to consider is like there's zero internal development on this team, right? Like Kako looks so much better. Like guys that leave look better all the time, which is crazy. Like Kako looks so much better in Seattle, right? And it's like you look at all these guys they've drafted and were supposed to be the future. It's like Cheadle, Kako, Kendra Miller to a lesser extent, right? Like some of these guys just haven't boomed the way they were supposed to. The exception is Fox, who again came there on his own accord.
That was a gift. That was a gift. Yeah.
Right.
Again, hand me down.
Like, but for the most part, and even Lafreniere, like you're talking about a guy who was a consensus number 1 pick, and I don't think he's averaged over 0.7 points per game yet.
Well, I was going to say, too, there's other guys that they've drafted and they whiffed on, too. Like, for example, Vitaly Kravtsov, right? Kravtsov, they whiffed on. He was a top 10 pick. In fact, there's actually a story with Kravtsov and Drury, right? I think apparently Drury humiliated him in front of the whole team. He basically when Kravtsov said he wanted to go back to the KHL, just told him he was a quitter. Apparently, just humiliated him in front of the whole team. So apparently, Drury's not a good apparently that he's not a very good person either. So it's not even so you suck at your job. You're not even a good person. So there's no reason people want to be around you. So like, someone please explain to me how you get paid the extra moolah to stay. Like, someone please explain to me.
But yeah, sense. Like there's zero internal development on this team. Like I don't know. To me, it's like that has to fall at the feet of the GM when it's been this long, and now it's like, okay, how many coaches has he gone through now?
I'm not 100% sure, but that is worth a good look.
Because to me, because I don't remember if Quinn was. I definitely don't think Quinn was under his tenure, but
May 5th. Like, yeah, he's been the GM since May 5th, 2021. So let's have a look at their New York Rangers. 2021 New York Rangers. I'm just gonna have a look starting from. Yeah, so Gerard Gallant. That was one coach he probably had. I don't know if he inherited him or if he. That's interesting. So I think he technically inherited David Quinn, but I think he just fired him like pretty much straight away. And he had Gerard Gallant.
This just feels like he's. Yeah, so it's like, again, it feels like the Ron Francis situation where, again, I don't disagree that the coach needed to be fired, but it's just, I think they should have cleaned house.
I mean, again, same situation as Seattle, right? Should have just everyone should have just gone, right?
Yeah. It's just, apparently you can do a bad, again, only in the NHL can you fail upwards like this. Moving on to a different situation where, so the GM got fired, but somehow the coach is still on the roster. Lou Lamoriello, so he's gone from New York. So basically, like, both New York teams making changes here. Lou Lamoriello, okay, I think people are a bit harsh on him, and it's weird that I'm saying this of all people. I think he overachieved with Trotz as coach, but you can't deny the success that they had. I think we have to acknowledge that, like, him and Barry Trotz were a very good duo in terms of maximizing the potential talent they had at the time. However, like, once Trotz was gone, they kept trying to paper over the cracks, but they didn't really have, like, young players or developing young players, and it kind of just stalled out, right?
Well, with Lamoriello, right, if you actually look at some of the moves he made, there's actually some good moves he made, right? So, like, for example, when he signed Robin Lehner to that 1 year kind of, like, prove it to me deal, right? Like, when they had Trotz. Like, Lehner, like, I think was a Vezina finalist that year, and then obviously they couldn't.
They won him and Thing won the Jennings.
Him and Grice won the Jennings. Yeah, the William Jennings together. So that, again, great move there. He extended Brock Nelson, who I think there were some question marks whether or not they wanted to extend him at the time. and they extended him. I think was it a 6x6 basically at the time, and I mean I think that move paid off in spades. You got a perennial 30 goal scorer for a 6x6. I thought that was a pretty solid move. The Bo Horvat trade was actually a pretty solid trade too. Getting him and extending him, I thought that was a pretty good move on his part.
Yep.
I think the problem is it's some of the moves that happened later, right? So with their cap situation, with the COVID situation, they kind of kind of screwed themselves with the cap. They refused to trade Nick Leddy, and they had to trade Devon Tays. And I think that's probably one of the worst moves they made. And then some of the coaching hires were a little bit questionable, like Lane Lambert, then Patrick Waugh. Not super great. Trading a first for Alexander Romanov, not exactly a good piece of business there either. And then, the Pierre Enval 7-year deal.
Yeah, no, I just think when Trotz was gone, again, they kept trying to paper over the cracks, and it didn't work. And I think they're veering towards a rebuild. And at the end of the day, and we always talk about there's different people at different stages. I just think if you're the Isles, you want a different GM in charge of a rebuild, and that's perfectly fine, right? Like, Lou did his piece. Like, he kept a team where I thought they had one of the worst talent bases in the NHL, but like him and Trotz kept them, performing way beyond expectations. But again, now you're pivoting towards a rebuild, and you kind of saw that with the trades they made, right? Where they traded Brock Nelson and whatnot.
Well, there's almost a point where they almost considered trading Dobson and keeping Brock Nelson. I thought that was like kind of the nail in the coffin. I was like, this is where, I hate to say this, but his old age has finally caught up to him. I do think like he's getting sick or something, because there's no way in hell you keep Brock Nelson, a 30-something-year-old dude, and you trade your best young defenseman in Dobson, right? So I think that was kind of that was his nail in the coffin for me.
Man, I was hoping, as a Stars fan, I was hoping so hard for Dobson. I would have whatever they threw in for Rantanen, I would have thrown that in for Dobson, no questions. But yeah, like a new GM's coming in is going to be interesting because they're going to have some tough decisions to make. There's some older aging contracts, and there's guys where like you look at the Pellet contract, Pulock, Mayfield, Engvall, there's some tough decisions to make on those deals. And again, they probably want a different person, a different perspective. Because here's the other thing too. When you sign those contracts and you're the one that paid those people, you're almost biased in a way. Whereas I think somebody new coming in, to begin unearthing those decisions and offering a different perspective is needed. I also think hopefully this new GM kicks Patrick Waugh out, which can only be helpful for certain guys on the team like Dobson, Duclair, Holmstrom. I think they can only benefit from Patrick Waugh being gone. So if again this means a full clean house all the way out, I'm perfectly for this for the Owls.
I'd actually be shocked if whoever came in kept Waugh. I'd actually be kind of curious, if they actually kept him. I'd be curious to know the thought process and the logic for doing that. Because I'll be quite frank, I'm surprised he's lasted. I'm surprised Waugh's lasted longer than Lou at this point in terms of Waugh being still around and Lou actually being the first one to be fired. I would have at least thought that Waugh would be fired first, and then Lou would get canned after that.
Waugh lives off that first year, his first coaching year.
The Colorado year?
He lives off that so hard.
But again, I think people forget though, that team underachieved in the playoffs too. I think people forget. Everyone just looks at the regular season but forgets that team, I think they got eliminated by Minnesota in 7, right? I think Niederreiter, OT.
I don't know. I just look at some of the guys like I said, Dobson, Duclair, guys who were even under Lambert not Duclair obviously, but Duclair in a different city. But Dobson under Lambert was almost 0.9 points per game, and just hasn't come close to the same under Patrick Waugh. And again, you have to focus on these guys are your future now, right? For better or worse.
Yeah. I think the next GM that comes in is gonna obviously again have to manage those iffy contracts, the Pulock and Pellick ones that you mentioned, the Enval one. I think you mentioned that, and the Mayfield one too. But he also does have a lot of contracts that are close to expiring. I think for the Palmieri one's expiring this year. Matt Martin, a bunch of the RFAs and Holmstrom and is it Siplikov? I don't know if that's
Siplikov.
How you pronounce. That's how you pronounce his name. And then again, Dobson. I think Dobson's an RFA, and then so is Romanov too. So they have some interesting choices to make. Although I will say, please get Sorokin some help. I beg. Like somebody please get that guy some help because, ugh.
Yeah. No, again, it's a long. It's not a long time, but it's been some time coming for sure. All right, moving on to the last one here. So the last one, yeah, Mike Sullivan, no more in Pittsburgh. I'm not surprised. Like, he's been there a really long time, and one, he never played for the Sioux or was in the Sioux, so Kyle Dubas wasn't going to keep him around if they weren't successful. As we all know, if with Kyle Dubas, if you never played or worked in the Sioux, he won't hire you. Point blank. And we kind of heard the rumors when Sheldon Keefe was available last year before he signed with the Devils that it was a possibility he was going to Pittsburgh. I feel like this was kind of a time coming. Again, it's a team that's moving in a different direction, right? It's a team that, while they do have Crosby, Malkin, Letang, Carlson, they're pivoting. And again, some of the assets they traded off during the year, plus some of the moves they've made have suggested they're going in a different direction. And I think Mike Sullivan, it's time for him. I just don't think he fits with that timeline anymore. So I think it's perfectly fine to move on. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think I watched a bit of Pittsburgh this year too, and they had, they generated a ton of offense, but I hate to say this, but they couldn't defend to save their lives, right? I think they had the most high danger chances and then the most high danger chances against. So it was like two kind of polar opposite, like, kind of play. And I mean, I hate to say it's like, I mean, Sullivan got them a cup, or I think 2 cups, right? If I'm not mistaken. So
yeah,
I mean,
he
has the 2 cups there. So like the tenure, you can't say it wasn't at least successful in some regard.
No,
but
Sullivan's gonna get hired by somebody. I think honestly, like LA would be perfect for him. Or I know that it's not just because his last name's Sullivan, but Boston's probably gonna be likely. Like Boston and LA are going to be 2 of the more likelier destinations.
Well, I was going to say too, Sullivan's missed the Pens have missed the playoffs for 3 straight years, right? So I think they just realized they just needed a change of scenery, like a new voice in the room. Because I hate to say this with coaches, but at a certain point, it just kind of becomes, I don't want to say white noise, but like the coaches, like the voice just kind of gets drowned out at a certain point, like as the longer you have them, right? And it's hard to kind of, if you're a coach, to rally your guys. So I think it was just the kind of move. Although if I'm Dubas, Keefe's not available. Who the heck do you get?
Who is the current Sioux head coach? Let me take a look. Hold on. I don't know what the betting odds are on this guy, but
it's a guy named John Dean.
Okay, so if we can find somebody to take the action, I will bet on John Dean being at like 100,000 to 1 odds being the next coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins.
How much do we want to bet that their GM, Kyle Raftis, becomes their assistant GM at some point?
That sounds like an alias for Kyle Dubas. Like,
honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. Also, I'm looking at Raftis' picture too. He's not a super old dude either. So like, if you told me that that was like Dubas in disguise, I mean, he doesn't look that much like him. But I'd be like, I could see if you just put on one of those those. When celebrities put on those the fake makeup and stuff to like kind of like
like they do the old if you ever see the videos where like the celebrity or like the athlete is like faking he's some random they had Jared Goff.
I remember that one too because I think when Goff was talking on the QBs, he's like, Goff is like, what are you, the punter? I remembered that and I was like, that was hilarious. But yeah, I could see this guy. I could see this guy as just like Dubas in disguise, basically.
All right. Now we'll move on to the playoff stuff. I think we've done enough on the GM parts. I mean, there could be, honestly, after the playoffs, there could be a couple more too. Like, we'll talk about this in some of the playoff stuff, but like, I really think some of these teams in the playoffs might get rid of some of their front office, to say the least. So, anyways, moving on to which series did you want to, or which conference did you want to talk about first?
Let's start with the West. Actually, I think the West has the more interesting action so far. I think.
Yeah, all the games were 2-2, right?
2-2, yeah. So, do you want to start with your Stars and Avalanche then? Let's start with that one. I think
we'll start with Blues Jets, just because I think start with the 1 seed, work our way down. So, I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat this, and this hurts me because he's my fantasy hockey prince. Like I've had him in as a keeper in fantasy hockey for like 8 years almost now. Hellebuck, there's no way to sugarcoat this. He's played horribly. I think he's
Well,
last in goal save above. He's last in goal save above expected. He's behind Stuart Skinner. Can we put that in perspective for people?
and for people who don't know these stats, so in Connor Hellebuck in his 4 games played, his goal save above expected is -7, whereas Stuart Skinner, I think, has played 2 games, and his goal save above expected is -4.7. So I'll cut Hellebuck a little bit of slack because, like Skinner has played a little bit less games. So like maybe if Skinner played 2 more games, he could be even worse. But yeah, if you're Connor Hellebuck, you're definitely not expecting to be the goalie that's in last place in terms of goal save above expected. Like there's no way you would have.
You're definitely not.
If you bet on that, I
behind
would laugh
Skinner
at
in
you.
anything. No.
Yeah.
And like even the regular numbers, 352 goals against, 854 save percentage. Those aren't good. And like the thing is, it's not like Binnington's been amazing. He's been average, but like that's just been enough. And I'll give the Blues credit for this. One of the big issues I thought they would have would be on special teams, but the Blues power play has woken up this series. Like 5 power play goals already, if I'm not mistaken. Like that's really good for a team that I just thought would not be able to produce on the power play.
I think I was really okay. So when I was trying to pick the upset, like I think when we talked in the last podcast about picking the upset, I was kind of between the Habs or the Habs Capitals or like Blues and Jets. And I think like when we
just pick those ones, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I was kind of picking between those two, and then I was like, I ended up going Habs. I thought maybe the first line could carry them, and I thought that again the Jets would just, I hate to say it, but just sweep the Blues out of the building. But combined with Hellebuck's bad play, and then the Blues like kind of showing up, like Binnington just doing enough, and then the rest of the team kind of showing up. Again, they're not
the thing that bugs me about this series, it's not like the Blues are playing. Look, you can shit on me for saying this all you want. It's not like the Blues are playing amazing, right? It's like the Jets are beating themselves almost away. The Jets have given up like a lot of turnovers, and Halley's been horrible. So that's why we are where we are. Like the Blues won a 5-1 game, putting up 24 shots. And if you saw the goals, it was like one of the goals Braden Shen scored where he just like found the puck along Halley's stick. One of the other goals was off Pionk, and the other one went off DeMello's skate. And like I think one of the other ones was like a tip from neighbors. So like, yeah, were they weird? Sure, but you do expect Halley to make those saves. But like, again, even in the game the Jets won, like game 1, like Luke Shen had 2 brutal turnovers that led to goals. And it's like, for a team that was so stingy defensively and had elite goaltending, they're turning the puck over a lot, not only in neutral play, but in their defensive zone. And Hellebuck's been horrible. So it's like, I don't know how to feel about this because it's like, it's not, again, am I worried? Yes, because if Hellebuck continues to play the way they are, I don't know what the Jets do. But at the same time, if the Jets just play the way they normally do, they should just walk the rest of the series. And like,
I'm a little bit
even though they haven't played great, it's still 2-2.
I'm a little bit worried about their offense, though. They haven't scored more than 2 goals a game in their last like 3 games. I think they scored 2 in game 2, 2 in game 3, and then they scored 1 in game 4. So I'm a little bit concerned about their offense. Like I do think that needs to wake up because like even if Hellebuck like stands on his head, like that 2 goals, I don't know if that might be enough. Like
they
may
do
be
put
just
up enough shot pressure. Like I do think it's just an issue of like maybe just some bad shooting luck, right? Which can happen. I'm not
the problem
worried
is, like,
about
bad luck in a 7 game series, like a 5 to 7 game series. Bad luck, it can be enough. Like I hate to say this, but like when you're playing the regular season, the bad luck will eventually turn itself around. Like you'll regress to the mean.
No, for sure. Like if it happens, it happens. But I mean, like I'm not as worried about the offense as I am about like. Again, I think they need to be more disciplined on defense, and Hellebuck obviously needs to play better because they're not going to put in Comrie for him, so he's going to have to figure it out.
I mean, I hate to say it, they pulled him in the last 2 games. So I'm not saying they're going to put Comrie in, but they've had to put Comrie in out of necessity these last 2 games. So that's kind of not a good sign for Hellebuck for sure.
And like, I just don't know what to think about the whole Hellebuck thing because I never believe in this idea that like elite players just wilt in the playoffs because we've seen it over time and time again.
Austin Matthews.
But we've seen it time and time again over a large enough sample size. Like those players do end up performing in every sport for the most part. Like I can't
score for.
I can't really think of any exceptions minus the Leafs, right? So like, I don't know. It's just kind of weird. Like again, we talk about Tampa, where like everyone laughed at them for getting swept by the Jackets. They go on to win 2 cups right after, right? Just as an example, like it's just one of those things where, again, it's just kind of weird because I'm not. I'm still confident in the Jets because if they just play the way they normally play, they should be fine. But they're not, so I don't know how to take that. You know what I mean?
Well, I guess we'll find out, right? So I think Game 5 is on Wednesday, so I'm kind of curious to see how this the rest of the series plays out because at this point it is just the best of 3 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the Blues and the Jets, it is just the best of 3 now. Now that you're 2-2.
I think the one advantage the Blues have is that, again, there's not as much uncertainty with their roster right now. That they know what they are and who's doing what. Like they figured out that Cam Fowler is gonna be their catalyst on the power play, for example, and they've stuck with it. I remember thinking initially it should be Broberg when like Montgomery first took over, but like Fowler's been great for them this series. I mean, like, you know, you look at guys like Thomas, Neighbors, like their top 2 lines have played pretty well. Like they know who they are, whereas again, I kind of worry about the back end of the Jets right now with Helly playing the way he is, with the bottom pairing not doing as well for the Jets right now, and then just the lack of discipline they've had, which is very uncharacteristic of how they've been the entire year.
Well, I also think too that like all the pressures on the Jets, right? Because if you're the Blues, you weren't expecting to really even be here. There's like if you told me they'd be in the playoffs this year, I probably wouldn't have believed you. So the fact they got here was already good enough. Like there's no pressure on them because like if they lose, people will just be like, oh, like the Jets are a good team, it's fine. But if they win, like everyone's gonna just say the Jets failed. So at that point, it's like there's no pressure on them. Like, they're just gonna go out and give it all they got. And if they lose, they lose. It doesn't really. I don't want to say it doesn't matter to them, but it's like nobody's gonna shit on them for losing.
It'd just be so sad if like. I don't know, it'd be mean. Like, obviously, it'd be funny if the Blues won, but like, it'd be so sad on the Jets. If, like, legit, like this to me was a Stanley Cup the Stanley Cup contender they've had since I can remember, since that Western Conference Finals run.
Well, this is even better than that Western Conference team. I feel like that's even better than that team that made the Western Conference Finals. I feel like. Yeah,
it's weird because again, I thought they would just mow through the Blues, but hey, we are where we are, right? So, moving on to the next series, Vegas and Minnesota. Like I said, I didn't get to watch all of this series just because, like, come on, man. Again, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a Game 2 is crazy. And they need to fix the scheduling on this series specifically. But from what I've seen, again, this comes, like, a common theme of the West is going to be just discipline and, like, not making mistakes. And from what I've seen so far, Gustafson's been really good. Hill's been bad to mediocre. And when Vegas, in the 2 games they've lost, they've had some really untimely turnovers. Like, if you watch that...
turnovers that have led to goals. Because Minnesota hasn't... I hate to say this, Minnesota hasn't put many pucks to the net. But the problem is they're taking advantage of every single horrific Golden Knights giveaway. That's pretty much what it is. Like I think Game 2 is the biggest example because Game 2 they had 17, 18 shots, but they got like 5 goals. I think 2 brutal like goals on Hill and then like 1 brutal Theodore turnover
giveaway by Shea Theodore.
Yeah.
No, like I'll say this: Minnesota. Like I thought Vegas's shot pressure and depth would just completely overwhelm Minnesota, and I'll give Minnesota credit. Like, they've been amazing at staying disciplined. And they've been amazing at not making mistakes. Whereas, again, Vegas has just been leaking turnovers at times, which they don't have to. Like, yes, Minnesota's done some really good things offensively. Like, can I say this? The Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, Boldy line's beautiful to watch. Like, the chemistry between Kaprizov and Boldy is just it's so good. Like,
well, I think the best one too is that passing Game 1, right? The one where you just threaded it across.
It's not even just that passing Game 1. Like, there's a couple plays where like Kaprizov and Boldy, like Kaprizov just found him, or like off the cycle, they just find each other, and even if they don't score, they create this chance. And Eriksson Ek does the good job of just filling in where he needs to. It's gorgeous to watch, man. Like I have a new appreciation for this line after watching the series.
Well, I
And
think
I
that
also
line's
have
just built. It's just built really. It's just a solid line, right? Like so,
It's
Erickson
built
Ek
well.
does all the dirty.
Yeah.
Work. It does all the dirt. It does all the. He does all the dirty work, which works because Kaprizov's not he doesn't do all the grunt, dirty kind of work. Kaprizov's the kind of the guy that orchestrates the play, makes all the good passes. He can score if he needs to, but he's like I think he's a much better passer. And like Boldy's more of the goal scorer on that line, right? He gets into his spots, and if you find
Boldy's so
he'll
skilled in tight spaces too. It's a really kind of underrated part of him, which I really like. But yeah, like it's just interesting too because I think the thing with Minnesota is the way you have to beat them, and I've said this before, is like you beat them with pressure and you don't turn the puck over. And Vegas done one half, but they didn't do the last half. And like even if I remember like watching the last game, like it was a microcosm of this, right? Like Vegas had the pressure on, like they were shooting a lot, they were putting a lot of pressure. Gustafsson stayed on his head, and their defense just does enough to mitigate the mistakes. Like the only one I really remember kind of was on the Barbashev goal, which ended up being the winner. But yeah, Minnesota
that was a pretty brutal giveaway on that one. Yeah,
right. So like, and that's the kind of game Minnesota needs to play, and they're doing it for the most part, and they're keeping it competitive because of that. And we kind of said before the series, what needs to happen is they need to keep it low scoring. They need to capitalize on mistakes when they can, and Gustafsson needs to stand on his head, and they're doing most of that. I will say Vegas definitely needs more from the Eichel line right now because it is like what they're producing is just unacceptable for what a first line should be doing.
I don't know. I don't know. Is there times where you watch Eichel out there and you just kind of wonder what he's doing? Because I don't want to say he just kind of floats around, but like I've seen times where he just kind of floats around, and I'm just kind of like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just maybe I've been watching a different Vegas team or whatnot, but it just feels like he doesn't do enough out there at times.
It's weird that they have Hurdle on a lower line, and Hurdles look like their best player. Like honestly, Hurdles look like their best player like most of the season at times. But yeah, it's weird. Like the Hurdle line has so much more energy, and then I also think in Vegas is that like again, Theodore kind of reminds me of Evan Bouchard sometimes this playoffs, where like he'll make two like really great plays, but he'll have two like what the fuck are you doing defensive plays. And I think he needs to kind of ratchet that up because he can. It's not like he does that consistently.
Yeah, he's not.
Just
sometimes
sometimes
like, I hate to say that he's not like. For example, like you mentioned Evan Bouchard. Like I hate to say this, but
he's
Bouchard
not Bouchard. He's not.
He's not Bouchard, right? Bouchard will give you 5 like really good offensive plays, and then he'll give you 2 like absolutely brutal. What the fuck are you doing? Why is this puck given away in front of our net? But Theodore's not that type of player from what I've seen, so he needs to kind of fix that because otherwise. I hate to say this, but the way Minnesota wins this series is if Vegas just keeps making key turnovers and they just keep taking advantage of them because that's all they need to do. Yeah. And then again, keep it low event hockey. Gustafsson's playing well enough. He could steal you a game or two. And at this point, stealing one game might even be enough because if your offense maybe just comes through randomly in another game, then great. Or if he steals you 2, then great, you won the series.
Yeah, I think the common theme of both these two series we've talked about is just like the lower seed just playing smart, disciplined, taking advantage of turnovers or underperformance, and just not trying to play out of themselves. Like they've stuck to their game. And if the better team just, played like they did in the regular season or stuck to like what they usually do, they'd be fine, but they're not, right? And I think that's the theme there. And I think that's kind of what it is for both series. I just think I feel a little bit more confident in Vegas, funnily enough, than Winnipeg, just because I think with Vegas, like, again, the offensive pressure is there. It's just a question of, like, the capitalizing of it, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. So do you want to move on to Stars Avalanche next, or do you want to go Oilers Kings first?
Yeah, we might as well. Okay, I got a couple things here. This is a series I've definitely watched a lot of. I watched every game. And even now I have it on the other screen right now. It's 3-0 Dallas.
Yep, I have I'm tracking the score too on that one.
All right. So people won't believe me when I say this because they'll look at McKinnon's point total, but Blackwood's been amazing, and he's probably been the Avs' best player. Like, I think he leads in goal save above expected. And if you watch the games, it definitely looks like that.
6.7 goal save above
expected. And it looks like that. Like, he's been amazing. He's made a lot of clutch saves, and he's made a lot of saves that, like, kind of stem the tide. because like he'll make saves where it's 1-0 Avs, and then they'll get the second goal to go up 2-0 after he's made a couple really good saves, and it kind of like breaks the back in a way. This series has been kind of weird because it doesn't follow, like, it doesn't, there's no script to this because minus game 4, like, I'd argue all of the games have been close minus game 4. People will point to game 1, the final score line, but if you watch that game, like, one of the goals was off this weird Pele kick that somehow went in, one was off another deflection, and 2 of the other ones were empty netters, right? I'd argue it's a weird series because I'd argue Dallas outplayed Colorado the first 3 games, but then Colorado blew the door.
Yeah, off in game 4.
Colorado gave them the spirit bomb game 4. So it's kind of hard to understand how to, like, because it's not like Ottinger's been horrible. It's just Blackwood's been exceptional, and it's kind of hard to like understand this series in a weird way because if you look at Colorado. Like, if you look at their offense, like, it's buoyed by McKinnon and Logan O'Connor right now randomly. And McKinnon's been incredible. Like, he's put that offense on his back, and he facilitates so many plays. It's just unfortunate because playoff Natchez has kind of turned his ugly head right now.
Well, I was going to say playoff Natchez and playoff Rantanen have kind of turned on their ugly head, too.
Well, the interesting thing, too, is, like, Makar hasn't scored as much yet, but if you watch Makar's game, I'm not worried about that because he still has the gravity, and he still has that ability that when he enters the zone, he creates chaos, so I'm not worried. It's just like a production thing, but you see all the flashes that are still there. Dallas is weird, man, because they're, like, they need more from their best players. Like, Hintz has... Again, I'm not looking at the game going on right now, but, like, as of going into Game 5, like, Hintz has 1 point, Rantanen has 1 point, Duchesne has no points. But the weird thing is, like, they've had flashes. Like, when you watch that OT winner in Game 3, it was Rantanen being physical, muscling the puck out of the zone, getting it over to Marchment, who, like, again, powered his way in, and then set up Seguin as the cutter to score the game-winning goal. Like, it's a microcosm of what these guys can do when they're playing well. But it's like they're just flashes. That's a problem, right? And it's like,
well, they also need more. Like you said, they need more.
You need more from these guys.
Yeah. Rantanen has just scored one, right? Like scored one just now, so to make the 3-0 goal is Rantanen. But again, I was gonna joke before the 3-0 goal. I kind of found it hard to believe that like Colin Blackwell had more shots on goal than like Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah,
right? Like,
no,
it's like that is not a good sign for the Stars.
Like Dallas's depth has been both like a blessing and a curse because the depth has helped them, and it's masked how bad their studs have been. But they still need their studs at the end of the day.
I think the Stars will be fine if everything clicks together. The problem is not everything's clicking into place right now, right? Like the depth's doing its job, but the Stars are kind of just the star players like are just kind of being like, like your big guys like Hintz and Rantanen haven't done very much. Like I think Wyatt Johnston's been fine. Like he's been really good this like game 5 has been really good so far to start, but like you know you need your bigger players to do more. Like if the big players and the depth comes through, then you'll be fine. I think.
I'd argue Dallas's best player has been Thomas Harley, which, like, can I say, like, Thomas Harley, that guy has been incredible. Like,
I think since the Four Nations, right? That's where I think that's where it kind of flipped on its head. The Four Nations kind of showcased how well he could play. A lot of guys were wondering kind of where he kind of came from and how he came out of nowhere. And I think with the Heiskanen injury too, like he got to take over power play 1, and that just he kind of just ran with it from there, right? Like I don't think
him and Lindell are doing everything for the defense right now, which is why, like, going forward...
I don't think Heiskanen gets back power play 1 at this point.
Which is why, going forward, I will say Dallas does need Heiskanen back, because they've been... Outside of the Lindell and Harley individually, like, there's been some serious, like, defensive lapses at times, and they have their moments where they are undisciplined, and obviously having Heiskanen back, who's one of, I think, the best two-way defensemen in the league, really helps that. And also, speaking of discipline, Marchment needs... Dude, like, the Mason Marchment experience is one of the most frustrating things, like, in the playoffs I have to watch. Because, like, again, he'll make some really good plays where he'll get into the corners, he'll muscle out the puck, and he'll create a chance.
But then he'll
take some of the dumbest penalties I've ever seen. Like, game 3, even though they won, the penalty took where he got the 4-minute minor. The Dallas had to kill. So 4-minute major. The Dallas had to kill off, and then the game after when he he elbowed McCarr in the face randomly for no reason, and it's just like sometimes you watch this guy, it's like, man, there's such a thing as controlled aggression. Can you do that? Like, is that too much to ask?
Yeah, I was gonna say like I saw some of his penalties and I was like, what are you doing, man?
Like
what?
It's the
fuck
most. I understand sometimes how like Florida fans feel watching Sam Bennett, because like Marchment, it's funny because Marchment came from Florida too, but it's so frustrating. Like, he needs to be more disciplined, because again, you can't give Colorado like power play opportunities. You just like Dallas killing off that 4-minute penalty, like that game 3 was I don't want to say a miracle, but that was like,
yeah, I felt like a miracle, right? Because I was gonna say that giving McCarr and McKinnon that much like power play time, like on especially a double minor too, right? I think you said major, but
and it kind of was, because if you remember, Essa the Suppressa had to basically play goalie to block Lehkonen on on that one of those scoring chances. But man, it like, yeah, again, I think the depth has been really good for Dallas, and it's taken away from the studs not being good. And yeah, Marchment needs to be more disciplined. Again, I don't know how to feel about this series, because on one hand, you could argue like Dallas could have been swept, but if I'm Colorado, man, like, I'm worried, because I've been outplayed for the most part by Dallas without their best defenseman, without their top line winger.
Yeah.
And it's only 2-2 right now without those guys. And it's 2-2 because Blackwood's been the best goalie in the playoffs right now. So, like, again, I don't know how to feel about this series.
So I'm
saying this,
I
like,
think
honestly.
I think basically, to sum this up, your argument is like you've needed so much just to get to 2-2, basically. That if you didn't have any one of those elements, you wouldn't even be at 2-2. You probably would have been swept by now, right? Like, if you didn't have Blackwood playing like that, you would have been swept. If you if Dallas had both Robertson and Heiskanen healthy, you probably could have been swept too. Like, I feel like there's a lot of things.
But like, it's weird because right now I could argue again Dallas could have been swept too. So it's like, I guess 2-2 is the right where it's supposed to be. But it's like, again, I don't know how to feel about it going forward, because I don't know when Heiskanen's coming back. I don't think Robertson's coming back this year. But like, again, all these things have gone wrong for Dallas. Branton and Hintz, these guys not doing anything. Heiskanen not being here. And I also have one of my question marks, which was, how would Mackenzie Blackwood do in the playoffs? He's playing out of his mind, and it's still only 2-2. Like, I just don't know how much more they can get from McKinnon. I guess they could get more from McCarr, obviously, but like, I just don't know how much more McKinnon can do. Like, his back has to be carrying this team right now.
I feel like he's looking over at Nachas being like, come on, bro, can you do something, please? He's like, can you do something, please? I don't know. I feel
that way watching Rantanen sometimes. I haven't fully like been paying attention to this game. I'll probably have to watch the replay, but like, I feel that way watching Rantanen sometimes, man. I'm just like, and again, it's annoying because I feel like with Natchez, it's the same thing. They show flashes where you're like, oh yeah, that's what it's supposed to look like. But the consistency right now is just killing.
Yep, that makes sense. So I guess you want to move on to probably the most entertaining series in the West, which is probably Kings-Oilers.
I'd be so pissed if I was a Kings fan. Can I just say this? I'd be so mad right now. Like, the Kings play... Okay, if you've watched any of these games, right? The Kings play this, like, aggressive, kind of, I don't want to say forechecking style, but this aggressive style. And they actually use their... Like, I didn't think they'd use their speed as much as they do, but they do, right? And they counter well, and you do all of this great when they take a lead. But then when they have a lead, they play the NHL equivalent of prevent defense.
Well, they play basically the NHL equivalent of park the bus, right? Where they just try to load up on the defensive zone, and they just stop forechecking.
Like, that's what happens. Why can't you just play that entire 60 minutes this way? Like, it doesn't make sense. They play, you're saying, like, they play prevent defense, and then the Oilers just take it to them and come close to tying the game or winning it. Like, I'd be so mad if I was a Kings fan right now, because it's like, this, you should have swept this team by now, honestly.
And not only she swept them too. Like I can talk about each game individually. Like game 1, you had a 4-0 lead in game 1, and it got to the point where it was 5-5, and you had to win off of like a last minute goal that probably shouldn't have
last
gone in on
minute
Skinner.
fan shot. Yeah,
fan shot that went in on from Philip Deneau. Like if you're a Kings fan, you probably were like, "Yay, that game was entertaining," but you probably thought like, "Holy fuck, we almost blew that game."
No. From what I read from Kings fans, they did not think that.
Okay, maybe they're just delusional then. Holy shit.
I don't think that's the type of entertainment you want. I don't.
And then game 2, like, I mean, game 2, fair enough. Like, they didn't really fuck anything up as bad that game. I think game 4 was definitely like the microcosm of everything we just talked about. That was they took the lead, and then they just basically tried to turtle and park the bus, and it just didn't work. The Oilers came back and then won the game, right? And then game 3, similar issue. I think an ill-advised like a coach's challenge for goaltender interference kind of just killed the momentum. Because, like, sure, the Oilers had just tied it 3-3, but then when you threw the challenge in and you failed the challenge, you gave the Oilers a power play, and then immediately, like 15 seconds into the power play, they capitalized, took the lead, and that was kind of it from there, right? So, again, ill-advised coaching challenge, ill-advised play when they have the lead has basically just has basically sunk the Kings to where they are right now.
And, like, the thing is, the Oilers are, like, giving it to them. Like, Skinner's been horrible. Picard was good last game, but overall he's been okay. And there's, like, so many gaffes.
Bouchard's giving you brutal turnovers every single game.
Like, so many gaffes by the Oilers defense. Like, again, the play where Bouchard's turnovers, the one where, like, Byfield went straight to the net and nobody touched him, basically. He just was able to walk right in. Like, there have been so many moments like that where the Oilers defense, or even last game, the one where Fiala scored the goal where they somehow got that pass in behind everybody and Fiala got it and scored. And McDavid's even looking at them like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Yeah. I don't know.
Like,
I mean,
I'd be so mad if I was a Kings fan. You'd like, and somehow, despite all of this, right? Like Skinner being horrible, all the gaffes by the defense, all these leads you've taken, it's still 2-2 tied. Like, I'd be so mad if I was a Kings fan right now. You know what this reminds me of? It's like the Kings are that kid that has to study like 6 hours a day. Like, say they have a final exam coming up. The Kings are the kid that has to study like 6 hours, 5 hours a day to prep for this exam. The Oilers are like the kid who doesn't study at all until the night before and early morning. And somehow they both get the same grade.
Yeah, and crams it all.
Like, that's what it is. And like, the Oilers are like that gifted kid, and the Kings are the kid that has to work hard. And it's just like, I'd be so irate if I was a Kings fan. And like, you notice it too in the games because the Kings, again, they're great at playing discipline for the most part, but the mistakes they make, the Oilers capitalize on. Like last game was a really good example, right? Byfield misses the clear, Oilers take advantage of it 6-on-5, right? Going into the overtime, they play that weird prevent system. Again, they're getting bombarded, but they take one penalty and the Oilers capitalize on the power play, right? And it's like the Kings can't make these mistakes, but here's the thing. If you're going to play back and let the Oilers come at you, you're going to make mistakes. So it's like, what are you doing here?
Also, I find it weird that like you went away from what you were successful with during the regular season. Like you played that forecheck like system. Like, I mean, finished pretty high up in the standings. You played pretty well, and it's like you chose to go away from what made you successful. Like it doesn't make any sense to me that you would go away from like what you were doing well. I don't know.
It's worse because you can tell it's something coached because of how quickly it changes in a game. That's not something like players are doing themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I would just be so mad if I was a Kings fan. Like, this, honestly, the first...
As a neutral viewer, this is a fun series to watch. I think as a neutral viewer, this is a fun series to watch. But if you're like a Kings or an Oilers fan, like you're frustrated on different aspects of the series. If you're the Oilers, you're just like, what the fuck is our goaltending doing? What the fuck is our defense doing? If you're the Kings, it's like, why the fuck are we sitting back?
Yeah. That's pretty much what it is. Like, I don't know. It's just, like, I feel like for the most part, a lot of these series, minus, like, Av Stars, this might be different levels of frustration, but, like, some of the higher seeded teams in these series, I'd just be so frustrated right now.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, right? If you're the Jets, like what you were, President's Trophy, now you're tied 2-2 against like what the lowest seed of
If
like.
you're Vegas, like you like the Wild look like by far the worst playoff team, and now you're tied 2-2. If
Yeah.
you're the Avs, it's like, hey, no Heiskanen, no Robertson. That should tilt it in our favor. Tied 2-2. And then again, this last series, like if you're LA, like this should have been done. Honestly.
And also, if you're the Kings too, like you do need better play from Darcy Kemper. Like you can't have this guy can't be.
I'll give Kemper a bit of sympathy because that last game, like what he had to do from like the third period to overtime was just ridiculous. But overall, sure, yeah.
Fair, but you can't be in the bottom 5 for goals saved above expected if you're Darcy Kemper. Like if you're the Kings, you need better than that. I will say.
Sure, fair enough. I just give him a bit of a pass because, like, again, I think he did whatever goal save above expected. He got it part of it back from yesterday. So,
Yeah, I think it's even worse. I think it was like what he was probably he was almost. I think he was the worst like prior to Telebuck's 2 bad games. I think I could be wrong.
I don't think he was. Skinner's definitely could have like getting some benefit from not playing the extra games.
My question is, what evidence or what incriminating evidence does Skinner have that he's still on this roster? I am kind of curious.
I don't know if he's not starting. Like, what's the point? I agree.
Honestly, send him to the press box, man, or like, I don't know, Roby.Island, please, or something. I don't know. Get rid of him somehow.
He can. Yeah, he can. What's the WWE term? He can just go sit in catering.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting if they do roll with Picard for the rest of the playoff. That's another thing too. I don't know if they ever go back to Skinner, which is going to be fascinating.
Well, I mean, if Picard plays as bad as Skinner did, then maybe they will. Just because, like, well, if they're both the same, we might as well just play one or the other, right?
It's going to be interesting though, like how, like what makes you tilt it if you do make the change again, and do you make the change again? Because I mean, again, Picard hasn't been amazing, but like they've won the last 2 games, and I'll give Picard this: in Game 4, he was really good. I thought.
I was gonna say that if you're the Oilers, you're almost better off throwing me or you in the net than like Stuart Skinner at this rate, man. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Just tilt the net down, Shinny style, man. There has to be a rule somewhere.
Yeah, just play without a goalie and just tilt it down, eh?
Honestly, the Oilers 6-on-5 is like frightening, man. Like, can I say that watching them play 6-on-5 is like, it is one of the scariest. If I'm an opposing team, that's one of the scariest things. So, like, maybe, I don't know, maybe that might be better than Stuart Skinner. I was watching that last bit of that game where they were just like chance after chance after chance after chance, and just like LA could not get it out except for icing if they tried, and it was one of the scariest things I would, if I was a Kings fan, like that's the part that would make me shit myself. Like that was frightening.
Yeah, and I think as a neutral, I think this is probably the series that everyone else has enjoyed. Like I've tuned in for it just because of the chaos I've seen without the series. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to these like next 2 to 3 games potentially for this one.
All right, moving on to the East here. We'll start with the Caps Canadiens. I'll give the Canadiens this. They've been in most of the games. Montembeault and Thompson have both been really good. I just think this is one of those series where Washington's just been too physical, and they have too much size
like
for
the
the
Tom.
Habs.
I think the Tom Wilson hit in game 4 pretty much like changed the complexion of that game, because I think up until that point it felt like Montreal was kind of still in it, but after that hit on Carrier, I think that was kind of it, because like the Canadians were just getting hit around and it just wasn't enough. I also feel like the Montembeault injury in game 3, like I'm not gonna say kind of spells the end of the Canadiens, but like Dobes just hasn't been that good in the 2 games he's had to play.
And Montembeault's been incredible for them too.
Yeah, so I think that to me was kind of the end. Like obviously like the Canadians like are one line reliant, so that is kind of an issue. And like as good as Demidov has looked, like that second line still kind of has its flaws, and I think Laine is now out with an injury too. So I feel like this is kind of everything's kind of just coming together where it kind of just looks like it's kind of it for Montreal, because I thought maybe the one chance they'd have is maybe if Thompson was out long enough, but apparently he just came back the next game, so didn't even have that going for them. So I think this series is, I want to say it's almost basically a wrap at this point, but
I think like if I'm Montreal, there's a lot that's to take away that's positive. One, the Suzuki, Hudson, Demidov, anytime they're together, and Caulfield, the chemistry just looks incredible. Um, Two, again, I think there's a lot like I've talked about this with one of my friends. Like Montreal for my lifetime has never really been a good offensive team. Like yes, they've had outlier years from guys like Mike Camilleri, Michael Ryder, Max Pacioretty, but the team in totality hasn't really felt that great offensively. Now, like going forward, I kind of see a strong trajectory for them offensively. Again, with Suzuki, with Caulfield, with Hudson, with potentially Demidov. And you watch the chemistry, man, like their power play setup or when they're in the zone, it's already beautiful to watch. Again, I think the issue for them this series is just one, it's the lack of depth scoring, and two, it's the lack of size. Like there are a lot of plays where, again, when Washington gets in the zone, that Montreal just does not have the size to keep up with them, size and strength, and it becomes a problem.
Well, they're just getting run
when
over too.
again,
Like I don't know if you remember, like the Ovechkin hit on Caulfield in Game 1. Like Tom Wilson just pretty much obliterating any Canadian in his sight. And like the carrier hit, like I mentioned, that they're just getting like hit around, pushed around, and they just don't. Again, they don't have the physicality to stand up to it.
and I think it's something. Again, it's just them having to go through the playoff. Just having to go through the playoff. I don't want to say the beat, like the playoff pains that every young team has to go through. So like that's not really. I'm not really mad about the series, but yeah, I just think like again when Montreal's able to turn it into like their type of style, which is heavy on transition, uh, you know heavy on transition or counter, being able to catch Washington off their toes or on their toes. You'll see games like Game 3, but I think where it's a lot where the play style is a lot less. It's a lot less free flowing, and Washington's able to impose their size. You see what you see in some of these other games. But I give Montreal credit for making the series competitive, just because again, like I think Game 2 they had a real chance to win it, but Logan Thompson just stood on his head.
And I even at times in Game 4, like they had the lead in Game 4 for a bit too, like heading into the third, right? So there was an opportunity to even not the series at 2, but unfortunately, just between the hit, the Montembeault injury, and then the Laine injury too. Like I think Montreal's just too beat up. Like they're just too banged up to do too much at this point. Between all the hits and all the injuries.
And I think again the difference comes down to the depth scoring as well, right? Like last game is a good example, right? Like look, here's all the guys that had points for Washington: Beauvillier, Dowd, Brandon Duhaime, Mangiapane with that wicked shot, McMichael, Strome, Wilson, Chychrun, Trevor Van Riemsdyk. Here are all the guys that had points for. Granted, I know it's misleading because Montreal only scored 2 points, but it's kind of a microcosm. Demidov, Caulfield, Hudson, and Slavkovsky. And the other game, it's that plus Suzuki. And I think that's always been that's kind of the problem and we talked about this, like with Montreal, one of the issues would be they're very one line dependent. And I include Hudson in there.
And for them to succeed, they need that one line to play out of their mind. And like they've played good, but they haven't played out of their mind.
Right. Like, okay, let's go to the game they won 6-3. I just want to pull this up quickly. Like, again, like certain guys had points like Evans and Gallagher, but like Caulfield with a goal and an assist, Slavkovsky, Suzuki, right? It's like I'd say this a little bit more like of the other guys scored, but I think overall in the series, it's primarily everything's done through that one line, and they don't have the depth scoring that Washington does right now, and I think that's the difference, really.
Yep.
All right. Moving on to the next series. I mean, I don't really know what there is to say about. I was going to talk about New Jersey, Carolina. Did you just get that one over with? Because
So I've watched a little bit of that series. So Game 1 was like a clusterfuck.
This was I call this the Versus Network series, the series that was most likely to be on the Versus Network if it still existed. I still hold that opinion, for the record. But if you've watched it, you can discuss it, because I've watched one game and I did not really give a shit about it, to be honest.
Yeah, this series was kind of just weird because like I don't know if you watched Game 1, but there was that funny sequence of play where I think Luke Hughes got hurt, and then Markstrom was trying to I don't remember who he was trying to slash in front of the net, but he ended up hitting like was it Brendan Dillon or like ended up slashing Dillon and hurt him instead, and then it was like the Devils lost what 2 defensemen on one play basically, and I was just like, well, this isn't good. And then
That's part of the reason like I just wasn't interested in this series because I saw that first game and like Carolina just outshot like
outchanced New Jersey. Yeah, it was the chances
and
were
it
that
wasn't
far
even
gone.
close. Like I remember watching that game and again Carolina's gonna play their game. They're gonna just shoot it from everywhere. They're gonna put pucks on net. But like the lack of resistance New Jersey put up at all, I get it, Hughes wasn't there, was just so staggering. And combine the fact that like I feel like they're just cursed with injuries because again, no Luke Hughes. You mentioned no Brendan Dillon, and they're just walking wounded into a team that's just gonna again just continually put up shot pressure, continually throw chances on net, and is very disciplined defensively. And you kind of get this series that we have now.
Yeah, like even Game 3, which is the only game the Devils won, like I'm not gonna lie, like it kind of felt like they were lucky to even be in that game and lucky to win that one because like the Nemeth shot that squeezed in overtime was kind of just squeezed under Anderson's arm, right? And like it was, I'd argue it was one of the few like weirdish goals like Anderson's kind of letting because like if there's one thing I've seen, like Anderson's played really well for the like the Hurricanes. Right? He's second in goals saved above expected behind Blackwood with 4.8. And you did notice right away when he got hurt in Game 4, like you did notice there was a drastic difference between him and Kochekov, right? Because I think as soon as Kochekov came in, the Devils scored, and I remember looking at the Reddit comments, and everyone's like, "Yep, Anderson would have saved that." And that was like the very first comment I saw on the Reddit thread as I was watching the game. So if you're New Jersey, like it feels like you're pretty much down and out, but maybe if Kochekov doesn't play that well, you might be able to sneak another game or two. But I feel like again, it's probably gonna be 4-2 Hurricanes, like at best, and then at worst, the Hurricanes just win Game 5.
I just think they need to replicate that Game 3 from a shot pressure standpoint because they like Anderson stood on his head that Game 3. Like I watched that one because I was curious just about like again I didn't really watch 2 and 4, but I was curious about whether they would just sweep them and like the Devils came out and put up a lot of pressure on Anderson, and it was completely different from the other games where like again Game 1. I think the Hurricanes almost had like 50 shots Game 1, if I remember correctly.
It was like I think the shot difference was like 2 point like it was like I think the Devils had the Hurricanes had 2.5 times more shots than like the Hurricanes or something. It was something ridiculous.
And like I think what they have to do is kind of just do their best. I think Markstrom's been good enough, and Markstrom's had experience.
Well, yeah, he's third in goals saved over expected, right? So he's literally the guy right behind Anderson. So he's done his job. Sadly, the problem is there's just not enough in front of him.
I think what they need to do is just even if they need to be a little bit more I think they need to take a bit more chances and like try to increase the shot pressure and shot volume, especially while Anderson's out, and like pressure Kochekov as much as possible, even if it means like you have to take some more chances defensively because Markstrom has. I mean,
at this point, you're down 3-1. Like I think again, you have nothing to lose. Like you lose the game, you're out, so you might as well go for it. I feel like that's what the Devils will do. How much they get out of their chances is really going to determine whether or not they win Game 5 and maybe even win Game 6 potentially.
I just think they need to. And Markstrom, if there's one goalie that can deal with that, it's Markstrom because he dealt with the Travis Green Canucks, right? Like he's dealt with, like he played in Florida before. Like he has experience dealing with teams that like give up high danger chances. And at his peak, Markstrom's a very good high danger goalie. I do think New Jersey needs to get a little desperate offensively. And like even if you have to start initiating that type of tempo in the first period, I think that's something you have to do because you can't just allow Carolina to like just keep putting up all this shot pressure on you like the way they do. Because the only teams that beat them are teams that, again, can either just be more efficient or teams that have like, the goaltending gets hot. And you have the hot goaltending, but you don't have the efficiency that like when you look at the teams that beat them have been able to do, right? So...
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. I feel like this series, I don't want to say it feels over, but it is almost all but over. I mean, there's some windows of opportunity, like small windows of opportunity if you're the Devils.
Sure, if being polite. All right. Moving on to Toronto, Ottawa, Battle of Ontario. Can I say this series has been weird too? Like, yes, like Toronto is up 3-0, now they're up 3-1. Honestly, the series has been a lot closer than that indicates.
Yeah, I think apart from game one, like I'd argue the Senators like completely like I would say they outplayed the Leafs in both game two and three, and then game four was kind of weird because it like there was kind of weird moments for both teams where if you looked at like the first period, like you thought Ottawa just kind of took it to the Leafs, and then in the second period the Senators had like what 3 shots in the period, and the Leafs didn't get many good chances, but like they were just getting like outside shots, and so that period kind of just felt more even than what the shots indicated. And then kind of the third period, it was like both teams kind of just threw punches at each other, and then it felt like the Senators maybe were a little bit better in the third period, but then like the Leafs like buried the few chances they had and forced OT. And I think especially with OT in game four, right? Like, I mean, this could have been 4-0, right? I think Matthews hit the post on the power play, coming 4-0, and then you saw the Sanderson shot kind of go in from the blue line, like kind of a weird shot that kind of just floated in, but like with all the traffic in front, like you knew that could happen. So I don't know, just the series as a whole has just felt weirdly
Neither
odd,
team's
like, weirdly
been
odd.
consistent game to game. So I think, like,
Yeah,
yeah, you mentioned it. Game one, Leafs just, a lot of questionable calls, but the Leafs were the better team. Game two was weird because if I remember this correctly, like, the Leafs were the better team period one, but the Sens were the better team period two and period three. Leafs win the game.
well, I think
Game
I think period two they were much better in game two. Period three felt kind of weird because the Senators didn't actually get that many shots, but then they got the one like late in the third to tie it, right? And then in overtime, like there wasn't really much time, and like they didn't play that much in overtime for us to really determine who played that much better. So
but I think it's weird because, like, in each individual game, like, each team's kind of had like a period where they've been the better team, and then a period where both teams are kind of like neither team is really that great, and then another period where the other team kind of dictates the play. So even within each game, it's been very inconsistent team to team. I think the good players have been consistently good. Like, to me, Jake Sanderson's been incredible. Like, I think his two-way play is massively improved over the course of the season. Like, I always knew he's good offensively, but I always had questions about the defense. But like some of the defensive plays he made, like when he broke up the breakaway, I think that was game 2 or game 3, if I remember correctly.
yeah,
On like some of the back checking plays he's made, he's been really good.
and
Brady Tkachuk and
he has some really good zone exits too. Like when he has the puck, it's just so clean. His zone exits are just so clean. Like some of the ones he's pulled off.
like
Kachuk's been physical.
him and
Like he's been
yeah, him and Shabbat, I think, like, look really good. Again, Shabbat lesser than Sanderson, but still good overall. Yeah, Tkachuk and Stutzla have been really good too. Again, like, I think the good players there have been really good. Stolarz has been like the MVP for the
well,
Leafs.
I think up until game 4 he was like MVP because I think I had a look after game 3. His goal stayed above expected 1.3. I think after game 4 now it's actually minus 0.4. So somehow that game 4 was just like he had an off game for sure. But I think the first 3 games he like there were times where the Leafs looked overwhelmed and he carried exactly. So I think he's allowed to have one bad game.
And I think some of the other, like, the Leafs have been weird because their best, again, I hate to say it, but like Matthews has not been that good this playoffs, and like I'd argue it's weird. The Leafs' depth, like Nylander to me has been their best forward.
Nylander's been Nylander's been their best forward by far because he's been the one making those like passes and getting those opportunities.
That pass to OEL, oh my god!
And the ones to Veras too was pretty good too because like just recognizing that he had a guy in front of the net and just instead of slapping it on net, just like kind of a slap pass. Like again, I think the Leafs just need way more out of Matthews. Like at 5-on-5, he's kind of felt invisible.
Yeah, I think you said it too. The one goal he scored was basically Marner going, "Here you go." Right?
Yeah, like I think it was the play around the net where I think I don't remember if it was OEL or I don't forget which defense. I think it was Riley that just rimmed it around and Marner just kind of one touched it from behind the net. And if you saw the goal, like I think Allmark was still looking behind the net when the puck was behind him. Like that's how weird of a play it was. But it was just like such a great play by like Marner and like a solid play by Matthews just being in the right spot, obviously. But again, he needs to do more. If you're getting paid what he's getting paid, like you need way more out of him.
Yeah, especially when you compare it to peers like McKinnon and again, Draisaitl, McDavid, what they're doing in comparison. Yeah, like I think again, it's weird, but to me, it's like if you're a Leafs fan, like how do you feel about this series, right? Because Matthews hasn't been that great, but the depth and honestly the defense, like OEL and Riley have been really good, but it's like your
And then
best
fucking Simone
player
Benoit
hasn't.
of all people too has been has kind of come out of nowhere and come in clutch. I don't know. It's weird because I was looking at Matthews too. Like it's kind of deceiving if you look at the stats. Like 6 points in 4 games, you'd argue is good, but he only has 1 goal, and like a lot of those points kind of came from game 1, where the Leafs kind of ran the Senators out of the building early, kind of thing. So I don't know. It's a little misleading there. And then, like obviously Nylander's been really good for the Leafs, right? Like he's like if you look at it, I think like 3/4 of the core 4 like have been pretty good. Like Tavares has scored the goals when he's needed to. Like Marner's like a lot of like what like
Marner's
Matthews has
creating
gotten-
his chances, yeah.
creating his chances. Yeah, like Tavares has 5 points in like 4 games, and 3 of them are goals. I think I assume Marner's produced 2. I can't remember his exact stats, but yeah, like 7 points in 4 games. Like he's by far like has the most points out of the core 4. So like I'd argue 3/4 of the core 4 has actually done their job, which I hate to say this, it's been like hasn't happened very often for the Leafs in the playoffs,
Yeah.
but
It's just weird to me because I watched this series and I'm like, this could easily have been a sweep by the Leafs, but like the Leafs could easily be down 3-1 and I wouldn't be surprised. But they're up 3-1, and it's like I feel like 2-2 felt right to me, but like again, the
I mean,
Leafs
2 of the
being
games
up
are OT.
3-1
2 of the games were OT, right? So that could again that
3.
that could have swung either. Well, yeah, 3. 3 of the games have been OT, and they could have all kind of swung either way, right? Like I think, for example, game 4, if Matthews buries that the chance in front of the net instead of hitting the post, I think there's a couple. I think in game 3, the game 3's OT was kind of quick, so like that Benoit shot might not have floated in. Who knows? And then same thing with the game 2 OT. If Batherson doesn't do the skate by and let nobody go in, yeah, there's like a lot of things.
That's interesting. Like I feel like Ottawa's been a bit unfortunate, but at the same time, like again,
it's weird. They've
but
helped
both teams
themselves
have been
at certain instances,
yeah.
and in some instances they don't really help themselves. Like that OT, like the game 2 OT goal, they kind of shot themselves in the foot, right? That was like a especially
That's the thing. It's like I feel like Ottawa's it's a bit unfortunate what the result was, but they don't do themselves any favors, and they're not and both them and the Leafs aren't consistent enough game to game that you can like complain about it. You know what I mean?
I will say, as a Leafs fan, the doomer part of me is like, oh no, we're gonna get reverse swept, because I just feel like
that would be funny. I'm not gonna lie.
No, bro, please don't let this happen. Like, look, like at least let us lose to Florida, man. Or like, I'm assuming it's Florida at this point because they're up 3-1, but which we're gonna talk about next. But I don't know. Please don't let us lose. Like, just don't let the Senators be the ones to knock us out, please. Like, I don't know what I'd do.
That would be like the cherry on top of the shit Sunday.
Yeah, somebody's gonna clip me saying that, and then I'm gonna get trolled in the comments, like in 1 or 2 episodes.
That would be
when we do the
so.
playoff
If
recap.
if that ever happened, my chat. So my friend Tyler, like we have a group chat. So my friend Justin's an Oilers fan, Tyler's a Sens fan, and like I'm a Stars fan. But like one thing they both can agree on. So I'm neutral towards Leafs. I don't really care one way or another. They hate the Leafs. And so if a reverse sweep ever happened, that's like it would melt down.
Okay, I don't understand it like with Justin. Like I get it with Tyler because like obviously Leafs Sens are rivals, so that makes more sense. But like with Justin, I don't know, it feels a little weirder. Like
I feel like if you have a lot of Leaf fans friends and they're like the irrational fan type, it kind of makes sense in a way.
I don't know. Do I fit on the irrational spectrum or do I actually fit on the rational?
No, you're like
spectrum?
the Eeyore of like Leafs fans, man. You're like you're just depressed about you just take the worst case scenario to everything all the time.
Fair, yeah. I don't know, but like again, I think
it's not even fun to be like, hey, look, this might be the Leafs' best chance. It's like, oh, they're gonna blow it. They always do. It's like, well, okay. Cool. I guess that's the conversation. All right.
I mean, do you blame me though after everything you've seen? Probably not, right?
I don't know. Like I'm a Carolina Panthers fan. Like I have to, I have to find some optimism. I think you just have to find some optimism.
Okay, but like as a guy who watched some of the Panthers, there was at least some points of optimism throughout the year. Like Bryce Young actually looked.
For me with the Leafs, at some point, it just has to happen. It's like for me, maybe it's I call it the Washington Capital theory. At some point, it just has to happen. Like that's just my theory.
Man, I hope so. I mean, I just hope so, man. All right, I think we should move on to the last series, which has been the everyone trying to kill each other series. So it's the Tampa Florida series. Because I swear we've had a major penalty in almost every single game. I think, apart from
Also,
maybe
like
game one.
people attempting to literally decapitate each other every game.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. Do you have
Like,
any initial
I
thoughts
knew
to
this
start?
series. I knew this series like
Would be a physical one.
Like they didn't even try to hide it. Like I think the first like 5 minutes of game one, they just came out banging. Like it was crazy. Every time I watch a series, like honestly, I know the score is a bit misleading. The scores in each individual games can be a little misleading at times, but like the series has been a lot closer than people want to give it credit for. I know the Florida's up 3-1, and if you look at like some of the goals they put up, like the totals, like yeah, they've been the better team. But again, it's a lot closer than I think people want to give it credit for overall. I think the main differences though are just Florida's just been a more physical team. And
They're
this
just
like
blowing people up, man. Like I don't know if you've seen the game, but like I think they've had what like two major penalties, like two major penalties at the minimum. Like the Mikola one that just happened, just today. I think the Kachuk one too. I think that was the other one, the one on Gensel. So I think they've had a couple of questionable hits. For
well,
sure.
I mean, like you had Ekblad just try to KO Hagel basically.
Yeah, that one I just missed. Yeah, so that one was tonight too. Yeah,
but I mean, it's just I remember. Okay, like starting in game one, like there was a play where Carter Verhaeghe of all people, who's like physical, but he's not like an insane. He's not he's not Bennett. He's not Tkachuk. He's not any of those guys. There's a play where he laid out like Eric Chernak of all people. And I was watching that, I was like, oh my God. Like, and if you ever watch Florida, like normally, if you ever watch Florida, they're not a super, again, they produce a lot of chances, but they're one of those teams sometimes where you can kind of see what Florida you're getting early. Since game one, they've had that aggressive forecheck, and not only they have the aggressive forecheck, they're finishing all their checks, and they're coming out with speed, so they're trying to pin you early. Now, Tampa's efficient where sometimes they can take advantage of it, but overall, like Florida's just been suffocating when they get going, and it is scary as heck.
and again, I think when we talked about this series too, we knew like these two teams were going to try to kill each other, and like someone's going to come out of the series like completely banged up. Like we've had like the 5-minute majors on both sides, the big hits. Like I think like Gensel got completely like run over in game I think it was a game 3, and then Barkov got absolutely laid out in game 2. So
it has been awesome.
these two teams do not like each other. Like they are gonna kill each other. Like if you gave them a chance, they would just like straight up behead each other if they could.
Like it is so fun to watch, man. I don't know. I love it. I think Florida's just, it's weird because Tampa swept Florida that one year, but post the Tkachuk trade, I think it's interesting. Bill Zito made the adjustment of like going more with size, and again with more a team that's more physical, but still has a fair amount of speed on the roster.
Well, I think didn't Tampa get swept by Florida that like that other year, I think, or am I wrong? Was it 4-1?
The year after, yeah.
Yeah, they got swept. So yeah, I call it the reverse. Like they reverse swept technically, but yeah, like
yeah. So it's kind of
pulled their own sweep.
It's kind of one of those things where, again, Florida, I think the size is just too much of a problem, and the other difference too is special teams. Like Florida's special teams, the 5-on-5 to me personally has been decent, like close enough. I think the special teams difference where Florida's special teams has just been better. I think they have more power play goals. I think it's like 3 or 4-1 or something like that. Like, I think that makes the difference. Florida's physicality has made the difference. And then again, Florida having that really aggressive, fast forecheck where again, and they're finishing those checks have also been, have also been kind of causing Tampa problems. Again, Tampa's smart enough where they can take advantage of it here and there, and they're efficient enough. Like Kucherov can sometimes create those chances where like you'll watch some of those touch passes he makes in those situations where they take advantage of the holes and it works, but you can't rely on that all the time. And the other factor I thought would kind of help but hasn't is I thought Vasilevsky at least would be a goaltending edge in net versus Bobrovsky, and they've kind of been equal to like Bobrovsky's
Yeah,
arguably
they've
been a
been kind
bit
of equal because
better.
like I think game one like Vasilevsky wasn't great. Like his stats right now are kind of skewed by how bad he played in game one, but like otherwise like he's been fine. But like I don't know, like if you're Tampa, you probably expected quite a bit more out of him because like you thought you at least have the edge there because it. I hate
Like
to
a
say this, but
clear advantage,
yeah,
exactly.
because
Yeah.
they actually just don't have the edge in the other two, like the other two parts, right? Like they're like I'd argue Florida's offense is better. Florida's defense, I'd argue, especially now that they have
Like I
Ekblad
think
back, is
Tampa
probably
has the
better.
better first line, but Florida's depth. I think this is the case. Tampa has a better first line in both the offense and defense, but Tampa has a
Florida's
better
depth is
first
just
line.
Florida just has
Yeah,
way more depth. Like it's just the depth is just loaded.
and that depth wears on you, especially again when all the lines are physical. Like there, the amount of guys that can just again that can forecheck heavy and finish their checks and just lay you out. It's just like it must be exhausting, man. Like that's why I picked Florida to come out east. Like this version of Florida is the best team in the NHL for point blank.
I was kind of curious more because of the way they kind of petered to end the season. I wasn't sure if it was more the case of just resting guys. Like obviously, it turned out that they just rested their guys. And just let everyone
Apparently, it
come out of,
was because like
yeah, just run out of the bill. Yeah, just let everyone get shot out of a cannon. Apparently, so
like I guess apparently like if you're not playing physical, if you're Florida, you just don't try at all. And now the playoffs, like I said, the first 5 minutes they played something unlike I've not seen them the past 20 games, like going into the end of the regular season to the playoffs, and it's just like, yeah,
and I
this
wonder,
Florida
I
team
wonder
to me is
what,
the
I wonder
best.
what Paul, I wonder what Paul Maurice said to them before the game, low key to get them out, get them to start the way they did.
Elbows
Like,
up. No joking.
we only hit guys with that have the puck. No, that's probably. I know that's been a
No,
phrase
like
echoed by both GMs this
if
series,
I'm the
or not
Leafs
GMs,
man,
sorry,
I'm trying to
coaches. Bleh.
get. If I'm the Leafs, I'm trying to get out of the Ottawa series as fast as possible because like if Florida ends that series early and you're still going and you have to face Florida after, good luck.
Yeah, you're just gonna get hit out of the building. Like, also like the Leafs are actually less physical than like when they were like when they had Keith last year. I think they just like to pick and choose their spots more now. But the problem is against a team that just consistently is physical. It's just not that's not gonna work.
Well, the problem too is like Florida can line match with teams really well too because all their for the most part their lines are pretty defensively capable. So they can kind of pick and choose at certain points how they want to line up, which is not an advantage a lot of teams have. Like a lot of teams have one like Montreal's a good example. One really good line and that's kind of it. So you can't really have the same luxuries that Florida does where you know you have you have three lines when Barkov's healthy of defensively capable guys, and you can just pick and choose how you want to go about it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be a scary. I honestly feel like whoever's like runs into Florida, it's gonna be a scary matchup for them. That's for sure. Like
Yeah,
unless Tampa finds a way to come back out of this, which I could see Tampa getting like taking Game 5 potentially because it's a do or die. But I could see like
especially
Florida kind of
especially if Ekblad suspended for that
yeah, and
for
then like
that
but then I could see Game 6
before I'm
like
shiver.
Florida having home ice games, just winning home ice in Game 6 just to like pull it out.
Hmm. Even this game was pretty close. Like Tampa was up 2-1 going into the last period. Florida tied it, and then Florida scored two goals in like a minute or two, basically.
Yeah, I don't know if one of them was an empty netter. I didn't actually see the ending of the game, so I'm not too familiar with what happened. But yeah, I mean, it was 2-2 at one point, and then Florida scored too late to pretty much take it.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, like I said, to me, I think if Florida, like this Florida is the team I picked to come out of the East. Like I think they're a matchup nightmare for like every team except, I'd say except Vegas when they're playing right and Dallas if everyone's healthy. I would say are probably the two that could like match up with them. But
they're still
like,
going to be a
I think
tough ass matchup. They're still going to be a tough
no,
ass matchup.
either way,
those
I
two
just
teams.
think
like it doesn't.
I think those are the teams that match up the best depth wise. But yeah, like this Florida team to me is, like I said, it's the best team in the NHL when they're playing like this.
Yeah. All right.
So anything else you want to talk about with the playoffs, or?
Nothing for now. I don't know. Are we doing guess that player next, or we still got time?
Yeah,
for that, or?
I was just saying, like this round one's has been some of the best playoff hockey I can remember, and I'm so.
Well, I think it's been good because it's been close. Like especially with the West, like it's been close. Like all the series are knotted up at 2, like or basically knotted up at 2 at this point. Like and even
but they're also
series
exciting games because like some of the games individually have been kind of blowouty, but overall they've been exciting. Like game to game, like some of the scores end up like again. Florida Tampa was a good example. It looks like a little bit lopsided at 4-2, but it was really close until like the last end of the third.
Like I'd argue
period.
the only series I haven't really wanted to watch too much would probably be Carolina, New Jersey. I think that's the only one I've kind of felt that way
because it hasn't felt
and the other ones though, like you've like close games or like it's just been close games all around.
Mm-hmm. All right, I guess we'll move on to guess that player. I guess it's my turn. You're up 2 points because you guessed Ruslan Fedotenko the last time. All right, I'm at your disposal. What do you got?
All right, let's share. Let's see if it's. I don't know if this can share. This one might be an obvious one, but I kind of picked one based a little bit not on the theme, but there's a connection to some of the things we discussed today.
if this is who I think it is, that's kind of funny. No, he doesn't have the 0 goal year. Okay, because my first thought was Scott Gomez, but I know it's not that. Okay, so for people that don't know, we do guess that player. Basically, how it works is, each week one of us has to guess a player the other person chooses. 3 points if you get it right, no hints. 2 points if you get it right with 1 hint. 1 point if you get it right with 2 hints, and then 0 points if you get it incorrect. 2 of the hints. One of the hints is where they were born. The other one is what round were they drafted. And we just do this throughout the course of the season. Willy Dubz is up 2 points on me right now. And apparently I got the choice here. Okay, so taking a look, played for Jersey. I always find the award voting weird. I think we talk about this all the time, like Lady Bing, like 56. Like who was...
Like even Hart 13 feels weird. Like yeah, sure, the Hart Trophy is like a pretty good trophy to like be in voting consideration for. But like 13, really, like not even top 10 at least. I don't know.
But like, who was voting you to the point that you were 56th? You know what I mean? Like, how many guys were getting votes?
Is it like two last place votes or like 2 5th place votes or something? I don't know. I don't know how the voting worked back then. I don't know if it was the same or different than what it is now. But
again, so guys who played for Jersey and Montreal, like Scott Gomez is just like the obvious one, but I know he had a year where he had like 0 goals. I just can't remember if he actually finished with like any.
I don't think he finished with 0, but I think he but there was like a long stretch where he didn't have 0. Like he had 0. That's at least what I recall about it.
I'm just trying to remember. Did he end his career in Detroit? I'm sorry, not Detroit. What am I saying? Detroit, Boston,
Detroit. I was gonna say like,
but Gomez played for the Rangers at one point, so it's not him. Unless I'm just like completely misremembering. Also, funnily enough, I think Brian Giunta also played for. There are a lot of guys that played for the Devils and the Habs, aren't there?
Yeah, it was quite a longer list than I thought. Honestly,
like it was actually off the top of my head. Gomez, Giunta, Camilleri did, but Camilleri played for the Kings as well. Trying to think who else. Like there's quite a variety of guys who played for both the Devils and the Habs. It's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, the Devils Habs pipeline is a lot larger than you think.
Like I'm trying to think like guys. I mean, Subban, Covey. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's guys.
Suv-
There's a lot of other guys too, but like some of the other guys, the timelines don't add up, right? Like there's like a lot of other names you could probably think of too. Like
yeah, like Camilleri would be a guess, but he played for the Kings. Gomez would be a guess, but he played for the. I think he played for the Rangers.
Do you
The
want that
89
first hint?
points is the year that's throwing me off.
Do you want the first hint at
like,
least then?
No, I'm gonna just guess blind. I don't think this is right though. And he's a right wing. I'll guess Brian Giunta. I don't think
So.
This is
It
right.
actually is Brian Giunta.
Wait,
So-
Brian Giunta scored 48 goals?
Yep, he had that one year. Like that was the year after the lockout when everyone, like a bunch of random players, had that explosion. Like I don't know if you remember, like Jonathan Chichu.
What?
Chichu had 56. You remember Chichu had 56 out of the lockout year?
Yeah,
right?
but that made sense because Thornton like made his.
I know, but like that was if
career.
you look. Like I can pull up. Actually, well, this is actually
Pull
kind
up
of a
that
cool
year for
exercise.
me. Just
We'll
go
pull it up.
0506.
Yeah, I'm gonna try.
Oh
to
right,
pull
this
up.
is a screenshot. Yeah, I'm an idiot.
No, it's a screen share, but I can share it. I just need to pull it up on Hockey Reference. 1 second. Summary. Can I do leaders? Would that work? Okay, let's pull it up here. I don't know if you can see. Did it get changed or no? Okay, so it's still showing the. Okay, so it's still showing the. Okay, let me unshare then. So, oops, hide, stop sharing, and then let me share here. Okay, let me share. Screen. This one I think Chrome tab. There you go. Here you go.
Simone Gagne with 33 even. What in the
Dude, I'm
go
telling
list.
you, this
Okay,
year-
go view all players. Go view all players. 12 to okay. No, I mean okay, yeah. Like some of these names get that had to be the best year of Eric Stahl's career, right?
Like Ole Jokinen's there too. Like Ryan Smith with 36. Like there's a lot of like Miroslav Shatan.
Miroslav
35.
Shatan with 30 in the Islanders.
Yeah, and that was an Islanders team where I was like basically. I think this was a team that still had Alexei Yashin at the time, if I remember correctly. So. But
Yeah,
like,
I'm just gonna pull up guys who played for the Habs and the Devils.
Like
I'm just
here's good
curious
old
what
Andy
other
McDonald
ones
with
there were.
85 that year.
Yeah.
See, like, even McDonald's there too. Like Hossa was
Yeah,
good.
so, like,
Savard with
Because
Leonard
what I was
Savard.
thinking was other guys who played for the Habs and Devils, like we mentioned. Obviously not Subban because he played D. Kovalchuk didn't play long enough.
Yeah, well,
And
also
then-
Kovalchuk played with Atlanta during that year too.
Yeah,
And then Toffoli
exactly.
counts too, but Toffoli's too like lot later.
Too
that doesn't
recent.
work. Yeah,
There just wasn't, for me, again, the breakdown of guys like Camilleri. It was pretty much between Camilleri, Gomez, and Gianna. And then Camilleri played for LA. Gomez played for the Rangers. So that, like, just left one guy. I just can't believe he scored 48. What was his shooting percentage that year? Pull that shit up. 16
let's
point. There it is. There. 16
yeah, but
point.
that's not even that's okay. Yeah, I mean it is higher than his career norm, but like I guess compared to today's standards, it's not even that outrageous.
No, the
right?
difference is the shot volume. He does shoot quite a bit in the other years too. No, the
Yeah,
difference.
even-
I think it might have been it.
I mean 298. So even that year where he only had 46 points, like he had 298 shots that year. So like he did have a few other years where he actually shot the puck quite a bit. But
I mean, consistent 20+ goal score is not bad. Okay.
well, I will say,
There
can
you
you
go.
imagine falling? Yeah, like what, like a 44-point drop off? Like,
Dude,
that's
imagine
crazy.
if you had to pay him after the 05-06 year.
I am actually curious when they paid him. Now that is actually a good like exercise to explore because I am curious if that when he signed his contract, he joined the Devils. Yep. Let me see.
That would have been too early, you know?
No, because I think he. It's weird because I think, yeah, he joined the Devils in 01-02. I'm trying to find his contract. I don't know if there's a way to look up his contracts. That'd be kind of interesting. Brian Giunta. Can we look at his spot track spot track? Let's see. I'm gonna pull this up. I'm pulling this up on my phone just out of curiosity for all the viewers because this is kind of something I do want to see. Because it would have been crazy if they had to pay him that year. Okay, so apparently they only show the. Let's see. Okay, so this is actually kind of funny. So, I think they had to sign him before the lockout, before the right after the just after the lockout ended, kind of thing. So they gave him a 3-year, I think, a 3-year, $4 million per year deal.
Steal.
So then he put 89, 45, 53, and then I guess like 6. Actually, I don't know if he signed that after. I can't tell if he. Hold on, let me pull this up a little bit closer. 06, 08. Actually, no. I think they signed him after the year he put up 89 points. They only got him for $4 million. That's crazy. Damn. I guess it worked out for them theoretically because he never quite got back to that point. So
You take those.
yeah, man, Lou doing his work. See, this is when Lou was like a great GM.
Bro, Lou, like, that's what I mean. I hate the Lou bashing because, like, it's not just black and white with him. Because, like, I remember the Zach Parise thing where Pierre Maguire was, like, so mad Parise kept falling, and who took him, right? Like, there was a point where Lou was ahead of the curve. And I just, like, again, it's not black and white, right?
My favorite one is when he traded Tom Curvers to the Maple Leafs for a first round pick, and that turned into what was it, Scott Niedermayer? I'm just trying to pull up. Let me try to pull up some of Lou's like best trades. Like, let's see. He got Kovalchuk in that blockbuster with the Thrashers, right? Because like even though Kovalchuk only played like a couple of years and he got signed to that big contract, like he basically gave up nothing to get Kovalchuk, right? Like that was a pretty good trade.
That's why I find Lou interesting is because he did sign guys like back in the day. Yes, like they played a very defensive system, but it's not like he didn't have players who were like he had a lot of players who were strictly offensive guys. But I think he was kind of like Tortorella, where if you remember Panarin under Tortorella, like Panarin was just so good offensively. Tortorella didn't mind if he slacked defensively, but the idea is like you have to be that good. I think Kovalchuk was a good example, right? Zach Parise too, when he was peaking, was kind of a good example of that as well. And it's just weird how like rigid again, but it's something. I guess that's something that probably when we get older, probably be more rigid in things too. So
yeah, that makes sense. All right, I think you're up by one now, so you're back up by one.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be a close one to finish out. So we'll see who gets that Jersey Mike sub at some point.
I'll just pay for yours with all the Jersey Mike's points. I'm kidding. Well, I mean, that counts, right?
I mean, yeah, that counts. I mean, it's not like I don't have to pay for my own sub, right? So,
yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
I'm not that much. I'm not gonna be like, yo, you have to use cash.
I didn't notice how many points I had or what the scoring system was. I just kept entering my phone number in each time I go, and then like slowly it adds up. I'm like, oh, cool.
Okay, I don't eat there enough to do that, but I feel like if I start to, I probably should. Because like I only go
I have like
once
a free.
a month.
I think I have like a free regular sub, and I'm just like, cool. All right.
Because you go once a week, I go once a month. I think that's what it is.
Once every 1.5 to 2.
Well, I mean, my once a month is actually usually going with you. Weirdly, so.
I'm a bad influence. I admit it.
At least with the Jersey Mike subs, yes.
Yeah. Hey, at least it could be. At least it's not like fentanyl or like serious drugs, right? Like Jersey Mike's is on the lower scale of what it could be.
I will say I could never picture you as like a druggy person. Like that just never could. Like just would never cross my mind. Like I don't think you could picture me as that either. Like you'd be like.
My sister's a pharmacist, so that would not end well. But
oh no! I forgot about that. I keep forgetting about that part. Oh jeez. Oh boy.
Every day she'll send me like a study of something, and it's just always stuck in the back of my mind. Like today, I was looking at so okay, this is a weird thing, right? But like so cream, right? Like I was looking at for different types of face creams, and I bought one that said like total daily moisturizer. I just didn't read it, but it was like I didn't read the bottom part where it was like hand and face cream. And my sister's like, no, you can't get that. And she read some ingredient off it, and she's like, no, you got to return this. Like, this is not good for your face, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, and then guess what I ended up doing? She showed me like some study, ended up returning it and got like a different one. So,
I mean, if you live an extra few years and you don't get a few extra things, you do have your sister to thank for that. Then I guess so.
100%.
I don't think you're complaining.
It's nice to have insider knowledge from, because she's an independent contractor, so I always say it's nice to have knowledge from Little Pharma.
Oh no, that's not a bad nickname. I respect that. I respect it.
All right, guys. So we're gonna sign off here for today. I want to go catch the end of the Stars game. I think they're up 5-2 right now. I just want to kind of watch the end of it. So again, for us to Toe in the Crease, I'm SJ.
I'm Willy Dubz. We're signing out for I guess it's the night now. Peace. See you guys
later.